Fortnite Champion Series. We've done it. We've made it here. The Reboot Round. That's right. Arguably the most hype portion of the competition. 4 games where only the Victory Royale matters, and those 4 trios that claim one, we're going right to finals that are happening next weekend. I'm your boy Zeke. We got Vivid. We got Adam, and in just a little bit we'll have some games. Vivid, Adam, how you guys feeling?
Oh man, we've made it, haven't we, Zeke? We made it to like pretty much the most exciting thing, the most exciting change that's kind of happened to Fortnite competitive, the Reboot Round. Such a great idea, and the fact that it's just all on the line for a Victory Royale just makes it all that much better.
I know, we have 4 teams left. 4 teams to get through to the FNCS finals. Everyone else is waiting there, ready to rock and roll next weekend. It feels like Christmas Eve to me. It's a Christmas Eve, like the anticipation, not a creature is stirring, but 33 trios that remain trying to get those 4 spaces. We're going to bring you guys all the action. It's going to be just like whoever wins each of our games goes through. I mean, we relish these moments because points don't even count anymore. It's just Victory Royales. It's amazing.
I cannot wait to get into all of it. First, we got to talk about a few things like watch.fortnite.com, a great place to watch what you're already watching, but there's leaderboards and some trivia. It's pretty dope. Watch.fortnite.com. Check it out when you have a moment. Let's talk about the tournament format. We've made it, friends. We got past the open qualifier round. Yesterday, we had the semifinals, which had 3 different heats, and now players have come through here to the Reboot Round. Vivid?
Yeah, they have made it to the Reboot Round, but how did we go ahead and grab these teams? Basically, to summarize it, we'll have 33 teams on the battlefield today. A Victory Royale earns a trio a spot in the finals, and there will be a total of 4 games today since we are missing 4 teams in our finals. The winning team is then removed from the pool, so if they win a game, the games go on until we have 4 teams that have advanced to the finals through Victory Royales.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how our teams approach this as well, because points, this is usually go through the points, like elimination points and position points, but in this format, in Reboot Round, points, they don't matter anymore. It all comes down to the VR, the Victory Royale. Whoever wins each of our games will go through. So this is where it gets really interesting. How are the players going to go into this? They're going to be a bit more reserved, they're going to be a bit more kind of passive, or are they going to get that high ground aggressive? We'll have to wait and see, Zeke. It's going to be huge, whatever happens.
That's right. And of course, because the points don't matter, that means we go right to the prize money. And we can't forget the Axe of Champions. Now, once again, I must tell the story of the Axe of Champions. This time, guess what? I went forward in time. I found my future self, the final boss of our story. And I said, listen, Zeke. And he said, what's wrong, Zeke? And I said, I know you have the gold. I need to take it back in time. I need to forge the Axe of Champions. And he said, finally. We battled it out for a week straight. I was victorious, brought the gold back, found Jonesy. Together we forged the Axe of Champions, digitized it into Fortnite. And now the Axe of Champions is distributed to the trios who walk away the winners of the FNCS finals. This is all true. Don't look it up, anybody. This is the real story. I've changed it every time. I'm eventually going to get caught in my lie. But for right now, everything is okay. Guys, we took a look at some of these other regions that are going on. Guess what? We can take a look at Middle East. Now, we have to take a look at them specifically because, look, this was a similar situation to what we saw in EU, where they also have 6 whole matches. We had the trios disband at the top because they said, you know what, we want another shot. We want to compete as well. Vivid, 6 games. I wish we had 6.
Oh man, 6 games. That must have been an absolute blast to not only be a part of, but to watch, right? Like 6 of these exhilarating games going down. And Victory Royale has everything on the line. But like, man, the decision to break up your trio from the previous season, kind of give up that guaranteed spot in the finals, kind of form a new dominating trio. That takes courage, right?
Yeah, it's a gutsy play. I mean, because you're already guaranteed to go through to a degree. I mean, fantastic. But to kind of disband, to get back together and kind of forge these kind of Reboot Rounds, the 6 of them for us as well. Like, thank you, Middle East, for the viewing pleasure. This is fantastic. We're actually getting a chance to kind of see so much great Fortnite action, Reboot Round style. Love it.
Sorry, guys, we're just vibing to our dusk music. It's pretty sick.
I can see that.
It's pretty good. Great stuff. Great stuff. Let's talk about NAE. So yesterday, in case you missed the semifinals, don't worry, we've got all of it covered for you. So the top 6 in 3 heats, okay, so this is just heat number 1, they moved on through finals next week. However, trios that place between 7th and 17th, they are the trios that we featured in today's Reboot Round, okay? So we're looking at Jeff and down to 17th.
Yeah, 7 through 17 making it through to the reboot round, and some huge names here to look at. I mean, we got Oliver, OG, Elige, and Asian Jev. Some unfortunate things happened to them yesterday, but hopefully they go ahead and clutch it up today. Niddle, Casker, and Smack, we saw them last season have a pop off in heats. Like, it's crazy when we get to these reboot rounds how many of these trios make it, and we'll be rooting for these trios throughout the entire Evan CS, thinking, oh yeah, they're a guaranteed slot in the finals, and then it comes to the reboot round, and here they are.
Yeah, and you can see here as well, like 11th through 17th place, obviously these are teams that are going to be coming through from Heat 1 into our reboot round this evening as well. Some big names like Styx, Jonathan, and Gandhi. I know you're a big fan there, Vivid. We talked about these guys before coming through. I think it's a really good point actually to make, which is, now that we know that who's kind of going through into that kind of finals next weekend, we kind of know the kind of the cluster of the teams that are ready and waiting. It's going to be so mega. Like, we've got such a stacked finals already, and there's more teams coming through. I want to touch on Felix, Pose, and Sparebo as well. A team that you love as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, those guys have a really good shot today. They always grind the game. They know how to get those victory royales, as does Jamper, Threat, and Rise. A team that should be so dominant. They had some unfortunate runs yesterday. Didn't really pick up the speed until I think game 5 yesterday. And you can see that they're a mere 19 points away. What's a little worrying is they didn't actually pick up a victory royale yesterday. So hopefully they can turn that around today. Maybe do a little bit of rod reviewing over the night and see what they could have done better to put themselves in a winning position. Because today that's all that matters. But we did see Nada and Leo's tree there. They did pick up a victory royale, so things are looking on the up and up for them coming into this.
Yeah. We got very lucky yesterday. Heat 2, what we featured here on broadcast, which was so good, so electric the whole time. And looking at teams now, 11th through 17th, we can see there in 12th position, Illest, Macbeth, and Tragics. Now, we talked lots yesterday about P-God's trio switching from Craggy and going over to Dirty. It looks like Intel tells us that these guys are following suit today and doing exactly the same thing, despite P-God's trio qualifying yesterday. Are going to be switching things up, so that'll be really interesting to see unfold. But again, Slick One, Sharkman, and Goku there in 17th position as well. We talked about these guys last week and how they needed desperately to get good points to even get into semi-finals, and here they are still going strong, trying to get through the reboot round as well. So it'll be really fun to see what things unfold for these guys. Some great opportunity here for teams as well, that kind of rising star teams, ones that we don't feature too often, to have their moment in the spotlight right now, to actually get themselves into the finals via reboot round. All it takes is that one victory royale. But Heat 3 as well was a massive one yesterday. We can see Dukami, Justice, and User at the top there. We featured these guys talking about the amount of points they got. I think they had 3 victory royales back to back, which is insane in semi-finals. But looking as well, 7th through 17th, we can see we got some other big teams. Sizz, Furious, and Nounzy. We saw these guys reboot round last year managing to do the business.
Yeah, Sizz, Lucky, and Nounzy clutching it up. They did have a different third last season, though. They did it last season. They can 100% do it again this season, especially with the firepower of Furious, a dominant controller player, loves those clutch situations and thrives in them. So high hopes for this year today. Ved, Kronos, and Tabney. Tabney, in my opinion, has the potential to be one of the best players in the game if he grinds. He does some little bit more learning about the game, because they just do such a good job of having a dominant endgame performance, and then Ved is just a mechanical little genius. So a lot of potential in that trio.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at 11th through 17th here as well in Heat 3. Yes, of course, these guys are all going to be competing tonight as well for a place in next week's FNCS finals. You can see 14th position there, Animal, Invasion, and Uzi. These guys actually, I think after game 3 yesterday, were strong in second position, having got a victory royale early on. But as you can see, a dip in form in the last few games. They suddenly sink their way down to 14th position, but they still are in contention for a reboot round place, despite that being in that top 17. But again, Cold, Elite, Crip, we talk about these guys a lot as well. They do love a lot of high ground. We'll see what happens with these guys as well. I mean, they could go all the way. It all depends, and we'll talk through predictions shortly. But every team that is in this final pot for reboot rounds could absolutely go through. I think we're going to take a look now as well at some of the the replays, some highlights from yesterday's action, and some of the teams that actually competed, who got victory royales that didn't go through yesterday, but are going to be competing tonight. So you can see some of the VRs happen in front of us here. Seeing Flu, Nada, and Leo here as well. Again, high ground. It's interesting actually regarding high ground, low ground. I think a lot of teams, high ground seems to be when it comes to a reboot round scenario, seems to be the preferred way to play this out, David.
Oh yeah, 100%. High ground is going to be an absolute mess today, because a lot of these teams know how dominant high ground is when it comes to getting those victory royales, right? Because you kind of are in this safe location, just kind of spraying down with your assault rifle onto everybody else while they're kind of getting suffocated by the storm, and you're just kind of up there like la da 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 da. You know, we're chilling up here. You guys go ahead, keep fighting it out down there, and we'll just chill up here. But I think the meta has kind of turned into, hey, if you're on high ground, you have a good shot at winning. But if you're on low ground, a real good shot at winning is usually found within those chug cannons.
That's what we saw in EU, man. It goes to a heal up all the time.
Yeah.
So we're going to be watching these players. They're going to have cabbages in their inventory. That's going to allow them to try and outtake the storm. We're talking chug cannons left and right. All kinds of fish that, as long as they have the right heals, they'll look to try and go for the heal off. We're going to see a lot of that. Let's talk predictions. Which of these trios we think will come out in one of these 4 matches. And if the predictions do come out, then we'll come back, we'll swap them out, and we'll keep you guys up to date. MDF started us off. He's got Felix, Pose, and Sparebow. And Vivid, you specifically are pretty keen on this team.
Oh, I absolutely love this team. They grind the game. They always are in the running. Always can find them like top 12 on a leaderboard usually. And I just, Felix is such a great guy. Sparebow, a good guy. And then they have a really good fragger there in Pose. I think that MDF made a good decision here, picking them as kind of like a sleeper prediction, right? But I went ahead for, I would say it's a little bit more of an obvious pick, right? Because Illis, Macwa, Tragics, big names there. We've seen them have success before. And I just went ahead and picked them because I think they're going to have Dirty Dogs uncontested. I think that they'll have a little bit of a rough time maybe adjusting to it, but hopefully they did a lot of research over the night between yesterday and today. But Macwood is just so dominant on height and taking it that I had to go ahead and pick them.
Yeah, I can see as well. Reese has followed suit as well, which is really interesting. I think the fact that they're switching up things this evening is going to it says a lot actually about the way they're kind of willing to adapt to any given situation. Maybe coming from Dirty, they give themselves a better opportunity to do what's necessary to get into finals now. This is a team that you kind of almost expect to be there as well. Similar to Jamper, Threat, and Rise, exactly who I've gone for. These are guys who came 5th in Season 6 FNCS finals. They came 5th. So they're absolutely used to being there at the top, competing with everybody in the grand finals. So interesting they haven't qualified just so far, but they came 8th in Heat 2 in semi-finals. They came 5th in Qualifier 2, 17th Qualifier 1. So they've been there or thereabouts, but tonight has to be their time to shine. We saw they got so close yesterday, I think 131 points, coming joint 7th. Actually, which is so close, but I think tonight could be the one. I'm feeling confident, but we'll have to wait and see whatever happens. Wouldn't it be great if all the predictions come true tonight? We banter each other regularly, but tonight we're all a family. Okay, let's hope that everyone goes through.
Well, we didn't get any right in EU, so maybe
we're doomed, guys. We're doomed.
Bro, it's hard, right? Reboot rounds, again, it doesn't matter what you do leading up to the Victory Royale. As long as your trio gets the Victory Royale, you're going through. So we will see chaos from top to bottom. Now, we have also pulled a series of replays here for trios to kind of keep an eye on in case you guys are kind of unfamiliar, but also Vivid, some just trios that are doing really well that we think it's like a secondary prediction almost, right?
Yeah, like a pseudo prediction. As you can see here, Furious, huge controller player. He loves those clutch situations, as I've talked about. And then Sizz, being a very experienced veteran, has been playing the game forever, knows how to clutch up in these clutch situations, and knows how to lead his team to a winning position.
Yeah, I think last year they were the last team to qualify in Reboot Round last year as well, which is incredible. But again, Illis, Macwood, Tragics, we talked about these guys a second ago. Obviously, we have Vivid and Reese tonight. I've predicted these guys are going to go through. I'm hoping that they can get a little down in the dumps sometimes, a bit pessimistic sometimes when things aren't going their way. But when it comes down to a Reboot Round, when everything relies on just one game, there's no time. There's no time to feel, to drown your sorrows. It's all about getting back into the next game and hoping to qualify. And Threat, Rise, and Jamper as well. We talked about them a short while ago. Looking like they're going to Holly as usual. It looks uncontested. Massive advantage going into this. We've seen it the last few weeks. If it's uncontested, your POI, that gives you a real opportunity to load up, to loot up, whether it be cabbages, whatever it might be, going into that end game, planning for just winning out and getting to a spot in finals next week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We see a lot of these trios. I mean, they have to stop by Orchard, right, Vivid? They got to make sure they can find these crucial heals if they want to stay in the game.
Yeah, I mean, what's really, really cool about the Reboot Round and kind of the meta of drop spots there, right, is because you can kind of expect yourself to win like half the times at a drop spot. And that kind of is hurtful when it comes to like a heat, right, where you need points over a series of 6 games because that consistency matters. But when all you need is a victory out, it doesn't matter when you get it, right? Like when you're contested, that kind of doesn't matter. If you get that win off spawn, then you're good to go.
That's right, and you know who else is good to go? We are! That's right, you heard the battle bus, which means everybody jump on the battle bus because we are heading out. It's reboot round time. We're gonna go over to Reese and Monster D-Face to kick off the reboot round. So let's get it. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to take initiative for these players right now. 4 games of Fortnite in front of us. I mean, Reese, we've been here before. Actually, first time for you on the reboot stage. So yes, the stage is going to be crazy right now. And I mean, it's time for us to bring the house down because, you know, we've put our predictions out there, but that's just a small taste of all the extraordinary teams that have a true fighter's chance to push on through.
Yeah, look, it's my first time here on the cast with you, but I was there in EU. I was watching the games and I took notes at the same time. I was watching, and you know, they're joking about our predictions on the desk, but at the same time, it's so hard to predict these games. Even game winners can fall very, very easily when it comes to the finals. So right here, you know, we've got Macwood, Illust, and Tragics, Dirty Dogs uncontested, looking like my pick, looking like a lot of people's picks out there to do really, really well. But this POI hasn't been so lucky for a lot of teams today at the same time. So again, we've got our predictions lined up, but really anything can happen in game number 1 of the reboot round.
And that's the thing, where every single battle matters. The elims don't. It's just about surviving, making it to the end, and playing for that placement. Already out the gate, you can see a couple of eliminations going back and forth there in the feed. Look at Craggy. Yes, look at the cliffs up there. Craggy Cliffs completely contested, multiple teams there. I mean, it makes sense why Macwood, Tragics, and Illust have decided to give up the drop spot, come over to this uncontested spot here and play their hand over here.
Yeah, they said we're getting out of there. I don't want to be any part of that. And they've done exactly as P-God's team did in the Pete to make sure they managed to make their way through. So good, smart plays, right? Advanced teams understand the fact that that contested drop spot is going to give them such a minimal opportunity. So moving somewhere like Dirty Dogs is so good. But not everyone can do that with Uzi, Animal, and Invasion taking a fight at Stealthy Stronghold. They've got the commanding position being on the outside of Encrypt's team, and in particular using the turret, which is so powerful for these kind of drop spots at the dishes.
Oh yeah, they're taking huge advantage of it. You saw the extra pressure right there. Remember, that's just gonna bite into the material count right now, which is very important for the early game engagement right here. Mind you though, they do have the man advantage at the moment. I think the enemy team already has one down from the equation here. Animal looking for the side angle. He's gonna grab the wall. This is a sign that they don't have material. There goes Encrypted. Quick knock right there. And already Animal and his crew find their first team wipe here, set themselves up for Surge, which we know can be a big issue here on the a reboot round type setting. Jumping on over though with Mikey, Zunis, and AV. This is a team that realistically could have had my first pick as someone who can actually win a game here today.
Yeah, they managed to win the fight in the early game. And if you're watching, wondering, man, that's a lot of fights. That's a lot of early game. That's a lot of aggression. That's actually typically what you'd see in a reboot round. I remember the first reboot round, we were like kind of thinking up ahead. We were kind of thinking these theories. Is it going to be so stacked? Is anyone going to be limited? Is everyone going to play really slow? But the reality of the situation is people have no idea what their drops are, who's contesting them. So it turns out to be super aggressive. And that first Storm Surge threshold will be, in terms of like players alive, probably close to 70 as it was on EU. However, after that, everything slows down. So this early game is going to be a lot of action, and then we'll probably see it slow down a ton coming into like the 3rd and 4th zones.
Yeah, definitely. Now jumping over with Styx Trio here. I mean, listen, they're putting some pressure down onto Trap, KJ, and Neon. Trap, KJ, and Neon, absolute veterans here. Now, normally they are at the Steamy Stacks, interested to see why they decided to come up to the Craggy Cliffs here, making a difficult draw spot even harder to play off of. Obviously, really changing up the landscape here, forcing out Macwood and crew to really consider a different drop out the gate. But Calcstix and Gandhi looking very decent at the moment. They do have the high ground hold, right? So at least they have that going for them here.
Yep, and BB Jonathan, aka Young Calc, was one of the members who was hitting every single FNCS finals up until a couple seasons ago, actually where he almost clutched it up in the reboot round, if you remember the one that was where Zayt, Saf, and Stretch won in there. So this is again another appearance in the reboot round for him, so hopefully it can be a little bit more adventurous this time, a little bit more successful. Maybe they can pick up one of the 4 victory royales, and look, they're definitely a team who's capable of doing it, in particular with the experience of Calc going back so long. They understand what they need to do in this. However, this long, drawn-out fight may be hindering their chances a little bit, but the North Zone's not going to be too bad for them.
And they have to be careful, though. Sticks nearly singled out right there as they start to rotate on inwards. Gandhi, though, using that boat and then using a technique right here. Jumps in, fires off a missile, jumps out just to quickly reset the amount of rockets you can put out there. That is just increasing the damage there. But we talk about Sticks being singled out. There it is. He does end up losing a shield. Now pause to reset here. This is everything on the line now. Jonathan's going to get tagged up. No shield for him either. And all of a sudden, they are losing the trio fight here. Trap, KJ, and Neon managed to turn it around. Jonathan down to no HP here, barely anything. He's going to be the first to go down on this team, and the full finish comes through.
This is now a 3v2 situation. Gandhi and Sticks are going to try and get the angles to play as much as possible, but they only have 2 builds remaining, so going to try and get anything that they can harvest there, while Neon, Trap, and K-Drop are just going to play the slower game. They know they have the advantage here. If they can keep their positioning close to each other, they could relatively easily finish this off if they give themselves time to heal up, which it seems like they have, but they're playing it way more slow. I think they think that one of the teammates is up higher and they're going for a trio push up above, but no, it seems like they're going to be scouting down. Yes, they've spotted Sticks and Gandhi down below, and that triple spray starts to come out, and we know that Gandhi and Sticks do not have the materials to be able to hold this.
Yeah, definitely. Look at the swing around here. Gandhi tries his best here. Great tag right there. It's enough to put down a little bit of defense, but not enough to fully back them off. Sticks, though, should have used that opportunity to get a little bit further now, and this is it. Their round 1 is basically over at this point. 1 HP, ticking time bomb on the clock here as he's trying to stay alive. It's not going to last much longer. And there you have it. Neon, Trap, and KJ win the drop spot over at the Craggy Cliffs. They are now going to have their opportunity to go ahead and make an end game here. Fight for that first place spot.
That is so big for Crispy Stream. Also have just picked up a win in that fight too, so they're going to be setting themselves up good. And this is exactly why I mentioned, right? 72 players alive. If you're used to watching any of the qualifiers, any of the heats, you're used to seeing way more stacked lobbies at this point. But I mentioned that's because all those early game fights have just gone on, and we've caught the majority of them there at the same time. A couple more teams went down off spawn that we didn't get to see because you can't see them all. But this is where things are going to start to slow down. That first zone is starting to close in. The players are starting to rotate. Now the people who have actually won those fights, Storm Surge tags, they're happy. They're going to now just get themselves into a good position up on this relatively north zone for them. Then the waiting game becomes. This is when that patience really needs to kick in, because of the amount of like tension that is in the air when if you can just one mistake can wipe you out from this game is so high.
Yeah, it's a thing, and one wrong engagement will also just set you back. It'll quite literally ruin your chances at winning the round at hand. So you do have to play very, very smart, pick and choose your battles wisely at this point. For Macwood, Illust, and company, they're going to go ahead and rotate in early. Look at this, opting to choose one of the mountains just north of the Dirty Docks here, or yeah, just north of the Dirty Docks, west of the Dirty Docks. This is a great spot to be on for Storm Surge tag. Mind you, they are not at a contested drop, of course. So, you know, any kind of tags here, these are going to help them in the long game, right? Yes, we may not have an early surge issue right now, but the likelihood of it coming around full circle is it's pretty much up there.
Yeah, and I think this is a good spot, usually in a more congested zone. So in terms of this kind of position, that green steel bridge you see just off in the background is probably one of the best and most common positions. In particular, the Steamy Stacks teams often rotate down to that side. But this hill's fantastic too. You do have a little bit less sight lines because you're really trying to focus on the teams who are boxed up right next to you. You can see that team in the little orange markers are situated there on the despawn. But if they're smart, right, they're going to not really give you any angles to hit them because they know you're going to be sitting up here. So the angles you have for Surge is relatively limited from this position, unless you're actually going for tags on the players who are coming from Dirty Docks, which, as we know, Tragic, Illust, and Maxwood are those players, so they're not going to be getting tags on themselves.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to get everyone all caught up. Couple big teams taken out already off camera. Niddle, Casker, Smack, Adams, Strafes, Subscript getting taken out. Buzz, Chimp, and Foppy, and one of the first teams to also be eliminated in this tournament already. Mind you, Reboot Round, like we mentioned, there are 4 prestigious games this time around. 4 teams will take home a victory today and be crowned into the finals here to have their fair share, their fair chance to fight for the big prizing. So big teams already losing opportunities out the gate.
Yeah, man, it's tough to see. But again, we already saw one of the teams on EU who basically placed in 33rd in all 3 matches and then won that final game. So it really is all about the mentality. If you can turn things around and actually make those plays for at the end, like, that's what matters. There is 4 games to go for. So the teams who are out early you know, it's not over for them by any means at all. So we gotta keep an eye out on those teams. That's definitely not Rapsif. Guys like Beef's team who's out 30th, or Atom's team who's out 31st.
Here's some major picks right now. Jamper, Threat, and Rise, based up next to Macwood, Tragics, and Illis. Both very smart teams. Also playing for key positioning here. This point in the map, this bridge in particular, where you can refarm all the metal off of this. You can already see Jamper, Threat, and Rise have began basically alphaing up the other half. They were here first. They've gotten ahead, if you want to call it that. For Tragics, Macwood, and Illis now, they have to fight back. But wait a second. There's also Oliver, OG, Elige, and Agent Jeff just nearby as well. Another team that the community is really deciding to stand behind here today for the reboot round.
Oh, I'm standing behind them too. They had some unfortunate circumstances involving a car yesterday, so we're hoping to see them pop off today. And I'm sure, like you mentioned, a lot of the community is behind them. They already were before that moment, right? They wanted them to go through in qualifiers. They wanted them to go through in the heats. Now that they were so close, one placement away, right? They were in 7th in their heat. Now people got to look at them and say they are one of the highest teams to, like, one of the chances of the highest to get themselves through here. And so far, interestingly, before today, what we'd normally seen is those players who've done well in your heats but not actually qualified. So, you know, the guys who are 7th and 8th in their heats do really well in the reboot rounds. However, to be honest, for a lot of the other regions like EU, it kind of just turned up on its head. I think we had 2 players who were 17th, so basically dead last in their heat to qualify through, managed to make it through, which is a change, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. You never really know what's going to happen here. You can root all you want, but at the end of the day, only having 4 games to take a Victory Royale, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. You have to have things go in your favor ultimately. Yesterday was a... Oh, whoa. Rise with a random bush check, by the way. Finds a player there. But, yeah, I mean, yesterday we saw a great example of that, right? Where the zone just hard favored Southern pools. And a good chunk of the teams that got a zone to land on them actually qualified, right? Or had a zone relatively close because of the big game they were able to turn out from those zones there. So, you know, again, it comes in, it translates the same way here into the reboot round. You really just need sometimes a little bit of luck as well.
Absolutely. And Rise's team's already managed to get that. They get the supply drop, they get the purple tactical shotgun, along with, remember, that guaranteed launch pad too. Exactly, the guaranteed pad from that. And look, Rise, Jamper, and Threats are a really smart team in particular. Like, Rise has been getting a lot of notoriety for being such a good in-game leader over the last season, and that bush play that we saw there was exactly one of the reasons why. And it's not like he just thought, let's randomly shoot at this bush. He saw that there was 2 towers right next to each other. When boxed up next to a bush, you normally have the understanding that someone's probably going to sit in that and just go for a lot of vision and go for Storm Surge, in particular when it's on a hill like that. So for Rise to be able to just instantly understand 2 bases, there's 3 players, where's that last person gonna go? Probably in that bush. Take a random shot at, easy 33 tags from. That is huge, just big brain plays.
Yeah, definitely. And look at this, a little 3-2-1 here, and Illis is going to go down. They find a fresh build, they target it out, and now they're pushing a knock body here. Tragics is the first line of defense here for the team. What are they going to do? There's a pickup happening right now, so Macwood playing save game here, while Rise is going toe-to-toe against Tragics. Unfortunately, they weren't quick enough to find new angles, and they are going to not be able to get the finish off here. So it looks like the save is going to come through for Illis, but wait, Oliver, OG, they also sense blood in the water, and now they're pushing up to steal in the knock here too, and they get a finish onto Illis. Macwood is down now as well, and Tragics is just left to fend by himself, and this might just be it for their round 1 of the reboot.
Might be. If he can clutch it up, that would be absolutely huge. But for Rise and Threats and Jamper, they're pushing into what now may be a 3v3 when they're looking for a 3v1 situation. This could be 2 of our top teams going head-to-head in one single match. This early on in the 3rd zone could be disastrous for both of them, but it seems like the teams have slowed down a bit. Tragics has moved on up. The teams below will be able to hear that audio. They will be able to hear him reloading his snipe, so they know they're there. But given it's fully built metal, since they could reharvest it from the bridge that's here, it seems like they're going to disengage again. And this is one of the things that happens in a reboot round when you know that you just don't want to make a mistake. Even if one of these players is fully finished, like Thresh, Jamper, or Rise is finished going for the solo, which, remember, doesn't get you any points at all. It just gets you the refresh in terms of your materials. Then what's the point, right? Your games can be completely over, but ooh, they're actually trying to go in for it now, and they pick up that final finish, and you can see they want to just get out there straight away at the same time. They get the extra loot, they are completely stacked. Let's be real though, risky play.
Yeah, definitely throwing it all on the table there for a second. But you know what? Going all in here and now is not the worst decision. They find those extra tags. They solidify a little bit of additional loot here. And, you know, it allows them to kind of be the kings of this bridge, if you will, for the time being, as the zone has seemingly favored this center location. So for Macwood, Alis, and Tragics to get taken out when they had so much zone favor, all due to a little misplay, you have to be upset about that. What happened there, guys, is that they made an edit. The wall was weak, and he let his guard down to focus on the team in another direction. And Rise Jumper and Threat that quickly focused that weak wall, and they got a knock directly out of it.
Yeah, that's tough. You got to be so careful, especially when you've got fully built metal all the way around you. When you hit that one edit and reset it, it stands out like a sore thumb. It just says, shoot at me, just spray at me. You can see that Rise is thinking the exact same thing with that brick that's over there too. You can see those players peeking out of that, and you must be really careful on the angles you choose to take Storm Surge tags on, but more importantly, the resets you choose after you've done that, because if players are going to be getting big sightlines on them, because they obviously knew Rise Jumper threats were here. It's definitely a bit of a misplay, right? We can't count that down to anything outside the fact that that peak was just not worth it for them.
More vets starting to base up next to one another. Furious is and Nounsy parking up right underneath the faves here. And once again, a little 3-2-1. That team opening fire right there. Rise Jumper and Threat doing an excellent job working with one another, and honestly being on the same page right now. Just you can tell they're on a very similar wavelength, and it's truly showing in their gameplay right now. I'm already feeling very confident about them in this game number 1 at the moment.
And not only that, you can tell that they're confident in themselves too.
Yes.
When you watch them go for that solo elimination, there wasn't hesitation. They played it slow and calculated, but as soon as they saw an opportunity, all 3 team members jumped in on it and picked it up straight away. There was no should we, shouldn't we, should we? No, they were confident about it, and that's what you need in a reboot. If you're shaky, if you don't know what's going to happen, if you're misjudging the kind of decisions that you're going to make, then you ultimately will be at such a disadvantage when it comes to picking up the victory royales, which again is the only thing that matters.
Here's a look at the map. Not what we expected. The eastern side being the more heavily favored and congested side at the moment. A single team on the western portion. Hopefully they have their tags, or they're going to have their work cut out for them as things start to develop here. But this is just zone 3 as we start to really lean into things. We saw that Jamper and crew holding on the northern side of that bridge is going to allow them to, at the very least, get first dibs here on the zone without having to move their forwards. Oliver, OG, Elysian, Asian Jeff cross the river here, cutting past the opponent teams. It ends up working out with them. Seems like they find themselves a nice little position there on the side of the mountain. Other teams look out for, though. I saw Baptiste trio there up on the mountain. They're the only team that has a little bit of the high ground terrain here. As we jump back in with Threats and crew, seems like they're pushing off another team trying to base on top of them. They're not happy about that.
Yeah, it was a late lander, so they're just going to take that opportunity to see when the builds are weak to spray it, but it seems like it's not going to be worth it from this moment, that those metal builds have made it a little bit harder, but I could be mistaken. No, they're actually still going to go for that spray down, and it's not for Storm Surge, it's potentially for the height place at this time and for that loot if they get one. And like I said, this is a very aggressive understanding of the game from Rise, Jamper, and Threats, just to spray anyone that comes near them, but from safe angles at the same time, right? They're always sitting behind those right-hand peaks, as you see there, and anytime they get shot back, they're managing to block that, hold it, reset, to make sure what happens to Illis' team does not happen to them.
And unfortunately, right there, my pick goes down. Felix and Posed, Sparrow get taken out. They were the team that landed late. They were the team that was getting focused on with those weak builds. And it looks like Sharkman, Goku come in and sweep things up. So Jamper, Threat, and Rise had a keen eye for a weakened team just nearby. And once again, their pressure does not stop. It's almost like they're using their aggression in their favor here, right? While teams are probably looking to play passive, stick around for endgame. They have more than enough ammunition at this moment in time to be aggressive, to be the team that's kind of determining the pace of the lobby around them. And you know what? Since they don't have the surge threat, I mean, it's working well at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of these teams will be panicking. They won't have wanted to peek too much because they don't want to get tagged up by a lot of other players. But given the safety that Jamper, Threats, and Rise have had while they were spraying, they're totally okay. But now as they land, that whole lobby focus turns onto them. But they do not mind, right? They're able to hold it. They're able to get the boxes built up because now all of those other teams are going to have to rotate. You see Chappie's team up on high ground. You see Ved's team on that far west side. They were that lone team on that west side. AV's team. Tramp's team now hitting the launch pad. Everyone is starting to hit this big rotate into 5th zone. Well, remember, Rise, Jamper, and Threats are already there, and they're going to be tagging every single team as they fly. You know, as long as they hit the shots.
Yeah, here it is. This is it, guys. The first game. Who's going to be able to take home the Victory Royale now when everything matters? Remember, if you win now, you go directly to finals. This is where you have to put up or shut up at these moments. It's time to clutch up and make this end game. Take this W all the way home. For High Ground, Uzi and Animal, they make the risky play. They start to build up here. They're going to contest Cammy here. Hags and Cheppy with a face-to-face standoff right now. And Cammy's not happy about it. Yeah, they're trying to go in and put up a little bit more of a commitment, if you will, with the builds, but little defense gets let down, and now all of a sudden they're getting focused by the teams behind them. They have to be very careful here.
Yeah, the whole lobby kind of keeps eyes on you at height in this 5th and 6th zones in particular, because every single player who's up on height is in the most advantageous position to win and pick up the victory hour. The only thing that matters here, so you can see it's a two-way. The young trio on the far left side there against Uzi, Animal, and Envision up on High Ground. This will be a battle for whoever can maintain this.
He's
but
going
again,
for it.
every single time this becomes a huge battle, and yes, Animal's team's looking to alpha that up, but they're getting the triple spray out from down below, but it seems like they've managed to connect. They may try to get edited down by the young trio down below, but no, they're going to give up that high ground. They're dropping down, potentially play a second height layer and go for the launchpad play. But now this is the problem. Every single other region first moving became a difficulty of players launch padding up onto the high ground and taking from them. Will Animal's team be able to hold it throughout this first moving and for the rest of the game?
That's the real question here. They're fully committing now. They got broken down. And no, Uzi's coming down here. Animal's going to fall and take big damage as well. And that's a double knock. Evasion's left by himself. He's going to have to fall, hit the launch pad there. And he has 70 damage below. What looked like a great position now turns into a nightmare for game number 1 here. He has to clutch up. And it's just going to feel, it's going to seem, it's going to look extremely impossible here. He's got everything working against him at this moment. And that is the risk you take for going for high ground that early.
And it seems like the young trio was the ones who took it up on height. Evasion as a solo below Storm Surge. Unfortunately, it seems like he's possibly not going to be able to do anything. But yes, it is the young trio still up on high ground. That play to drop down was absolutely the right one. But Rise, Jamper, and Threats down on the mid ground. 110 above this Storm Surge threshold with 9 players left to go. Still tons of materials left to their name. Their heals looking really, really good for that heal off game as well. Every team that we looked at so far is in such a good spot.
They're looking excellent there. Furious is lucky as well, looking very, very good here too. They start to look up to height. Furious gets focused for a second, and all of a sudden, he finds himself in between some opponents here. Gets into a little bit of a skirmish here. Pre-edit shots too, and Furious is doing an excellent job right now playing proper defense. But our high ground team, that's the squad to look out for too. Remember, they're in the best position at the moment to potentially walk away with this, but they are somehow below the surge. They're being focused right now. They're trying to out-heal this. This could be a deadly, deadly mistake at this moment, as another team is going to go on over them. They have to find some tags here and now. It's all or nothing, Reese. Their game will be over here if they cannot find just a little bit more. Is Goku, Slick, and Sharkman, after taking out Posed and Felix there in the mid game, they managed to have high ground in the end.
They've ultimately held it at this point in the zone, and we see another launch pad coming out onto Ben's team, but no, only he's going to be able to land up there. But another one, it's Rise, Jamper, and Threats who are not going to go for the high ground play. They've managed to dip down below. Well, Slick, Sharkman, and Goku have managed to claim high ground in 8th zone. This is the pivotal moment for them, but the real question is, do they have the heal game to win it from here on out? The players down below will have floppers, they will have chug cannons, and they will have cabbages, whatever kind of like farming fruit that they have found so far in their inventories, and we have to understand if the high ground team will be able to beat that out.
What I will say is Jamper Threat and Rise went for a storm play. You can see they all took so much damage just trying to go in and snatch up height, and they're going for it once again. The fire here, that's the kryptonite to Jamper. He's going to have to give it up. And now Slick and Crew get targeted once again. That's a 99 tag. Huge for high ground. I mean, Jamper could be setting it up to, quite honestly, have no one win who's on height, because they are fighting for it here. They're throwing it all on the table, and that's a major risk here. But there it is. A med kit is found from Rise. He's going to time the execution there. It goes through. He's also got a chug cannon. Another win condition, fights his way through that one. He's trying to break through the builds, but opponent was there waiting for him. He couldn't clutch it up, and down he goes. It is now left up to Threat here. A solo on the mid ground. On height, Flew Wrigley manages to snatch it up over Tabney. How in the world did he get up there? I don't know, but he is by himself here. It's a battle for height at this moment.
It's a battle for right now. We see Pump trying to spray down, not be contested up on the high ground. He drops all the way down, but Wrigley is still up on the max damage. But no, he takes out Tabney as he falls down. Goku is on the full low ground. Threats is healing off in the back of the Storm at the same time, using that chug cannon, and it's a 1v1 against Wrigley. He is in the zone, but Threats is not. He has the high ground, and he's going to have to jump down to make a play as Wrigley also starts to run out of materials. 2 builds to his name. The shots start to come out from Threats down onto the low ground situation. Both are going to have to take a shot, and it's going to be Wrigley alongside K-Burbs and dictating who pick up the Victory Royale in that first match and qualify through to the finals.
That was a close one, but Wrigley, K-Burbs, and Dictating are to take home the first win of the reboot round there. It was so close. Threats almost pulled off the impossible. Had he just committed to the battle a little bit sooner, it would have been enough, but he did not, and just like that, we get our first team to punch their way to the final stage now. We're going to toss it over to Desto. We got to hear what you guys got before we start gearing up for the next one.
Oh my gosh, bro, so close. That would have been the first time we got a prediction right, but for Wrigley's trio, the trio out of Caddy, Corner, and Contested, they say, no, fam, we'd like the Victory Royale. We'd like a spot in the finals. Battle Bus spot secured. I like to see that, boys. I like to see that.
Dude, no way the first game comes down to like a 1v1 clutch situation. Like, there's not even like a full trio. There wasn't even a full trio life for like the last like minute of the game. It didn't go down to a heal off. Went to a nice little 1v1 low ground versus high ground, and the low ground there wins it.
Yeah, do you know what, we were following Jamper, Threat, and Rise like almost the entire game. We saw that great face-off against Macwood's trio at the bridge. It comes down to Threat versus, I think it was Wrigley, was at the end, and it was 1v1, and Wrigley runs out of mats. You think Threat's got the advantage, you got the chugs, and then it doesn't happen. So close to getting prediction 1 correct, fellas. I'm gutted, but there's still plenty of time. There's plenty of time. This is, like I said, the highlights of what happened earlier on in that kind of kind of bridge face-off. Actually, really interesting. I think Jamper, Threat, and Rise had a really great position on this one. I think it was kind of, Macwood's trio as well. They were contested with a third party from both sides, really tricky for them. But Wrigley, Burbs, and Dictate will go all the way through. They are a reboot round qualifier from number 1 into FNCS finals, Vivid. Congratulations to the trio.
Yeah, and here's the spotlight right here. They had a total of 8 elims that game. Their top qual finish was actually only 64th, so they did qualify through series points all the way to the heats, obviously. And then, yeah, their heat placement was 14th. So these guys, you know what I mean? It's not like they're performing really hot or anything like that, but they come out today, win the first reboot round game in a clutch situation. Huge to see that, but they have been in the FNCS finals a combined total of 3 times. So these guys aren't necessarily, new to FNCS finals, but to see them performing, subpar and then come out, win game 1 of the reboot round, that's awesome for these guys.
Yeah, we've talked as well about placements as well. 14th heat placement. Now that might seem uncommon, thinking it's not one of the top teams that kind of came in the top 10 yesterday. However, we saw that last season as well. I think the last season, the reboot rounds kind of qualifiers were 15th, 17th, and 16th or something in their heats, which is crazy. So congratulations. I think we checked some of the kind of highlights from the Victory Royale as well, which was fantastic to see unfold. There was so much going on here. We even see Goku's trio kind of on top there for a little bit as well. We mentioned they just getting lucky to get into semis last week, just barely qualifying. But Vivid, it just felt like it was a classic reboot round. We had a few duos, a solo or two, and it came down to a 1v1.
Yeah, look at this Threat here. He drops down. He gets a really good initial shot onto Wrigley there. Takes a lot of damage, but can't actually find that finishing damage. I would say this was a pretty fair 1v1 as well, right? Because they both had chug cannons. They both had a little bit of lads, but Wrigley there, just that side jump right there just finishes them all. It's such a sneaky little peek right there.
I know, and I think as well the fact that as I said, I did choose Threat, Jamper and Rise initially. What I hope doesn't happen now is you get so close to clutching the win and going through in that second position that it doesn't affect the team. I think these guys have done this long enough now. They're long enough in the tooth to know that they have to jump back right on the saddle and go for it again. They've got 3 more opportunities to do so, Zeke. So it's all still to play for.
Yeah, man, and I think that the biggest thing we've observed is even in EU is like there's never really been a trio that makes to endgame. It's usually like 2 players or a solo, so that like trying to just find this space to operate as a full trio will absolutely benefit. But again, you can see we already saw the heal ops happening, right? Usage of the chug cannon, usage of different of these items, right? Like, so we're gonna continue to see this pattern because the idea is we want to stay alive as long as possible. If we can out heal this other player with a series of cabbages or anything, right? As long as we win, as long as we're the last trio alive, we're going through to the finals. So we'll have to see. Maybe we'll get a prediction right, Adam. Maybe. We have another 3 games. We'll have to see how this continues to unfold. But for now, we're getting ready to jump back aboard the battle bus. 3 more games, 3 more trios have a spot waiting for them. The question is who? But you heard it there. Battle Bus is ready to go. That means MDF and Reese are ready to go as well. So for now, let's kick it back to them.
Let's get into it, guys. Game number 2 is now here and underway. One team is going to be exiting us today. Bittersweet feels here on the desk. But you know what? Another opportunity, another day here, Reese, who's going to be able to take home this next game now. As, you know, it's going to be heartbreaking for teams like Threat, Jamper, and Rise, who got that close, only to have it snatched up. Especially even like Tabney, Ved, and Pump, what they managed to do there, it was almost theirs to take home too. Just so many teams had a real fighter's chance there.
So many do, and let's be real, the biggest difficulty, we'll say, when it comes to this is that we can only have 4 teams who make it through, and it's heartbreaking to see those teams who come second, who come third, repeatedly, who come so close. Like I mentioned, Jamper, Threats, and Rise, who managed to come second, they're so close. If they continue that streak and keep coming second, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, does it? Right? They don't come first, they don't put their ticket through to qual, but at the end of the day, you show how good they are and that they had the potential to do it, but they didn't do it when it mattered.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you're consistently up in the top 5, I mean, it will probably prove that you're the best team here as far as the bulk of the crews that are just outside the finals, but it doesn't mean you're the team that managed to punch their way to the finals. You got to get that condition, the win condition met here in order to be at the big stage with everyone else in the week to come. For Rise, Jamper, and Threat, that was a very good and close fight at the end there, but it just wasn't going to be enough. And look at this, he's going to find a llama here. Interestingly enough, Rise keeping a very low priority, tries to sneak up on the llama there. He does catch it. It's kind of funny how that works out. You know, the mechanic behind capturing the llama.
I was almost about to recommend a Raider 464 map to him there to work on his piece control as he missed the box up on the llama that was stagnant, but he managed to get at the end. That's going to give them obviously cap mats for them, which is going to make their rotations a little bit faster. And on top of that as well, it's also going to give him the chug cannon, right? Which is great for heal off. He's already got a med kit. They're already setting themselves up for a victory royale too. And you've seen that bottom right, that zone is pulling all the way down south, which often is one of the most awkward zones for a lot of players. We know those further zones can start pulling towards the mountains, but even earlier than that, that kind of lake that's right in the center of the zone there, just right above Misty, below Lazy Lake. Maybe it's called the Lazy Lake, I don't know. That little spot right there becomes so difficult because players have to rotate through to get tagged a ton in the later zones on those south zones. So I'm preempting what we're going to see later. And this is another llama coming out of Jamper. Another one.
This is massive, Zeke, of Reese here. I mean, they find 2 chug cannons off of this. Like, that is huge.
I gotta start being funnier, that's it. I can't live up to Zeke, like, no way.
Dude, no, what I was thinking though was I was gonna say this is very the end game there was very reminiscent of old school Fortnite, and I say that because it was like height was everything, right? It meant everything there, and you can see how teams were just fighting tooth and nail for high ground. Just shows you how dominant that positioning can be. But now back to a little early game drop fight here. Chimp, Fop, and Buzz, they lost this battle before. Just a round to go here to Zuni's, Mikey, and AV.
Yeah, we was, like I said, you saw that when Zuni's ended up picking up. We kind of caught the tail end of it before. And now we're stuck right into the middle of it. No eliminations. We're in that stalemate where all these teams are just boxed up. It seems like AV's going for a big shot, but no, he gets 132'd by Buzz. So that is now a 3v2 to see Zuni's coming up behind, and there's a pinch coming onto this player. So Mikey's going to pressure from down below. Zuni's comes up from above, and it seems like he has absolutely no materials, but he cannot relent this pressure from any angle. Here is Mikey will now also be picked up too and finished. So So it's now left to Zunis as a solo to 1v3 the team who's left behind. 5 builds to his name, 58 HP. They're all going to slow down, heal up, make sure that they can actually not get 1v3 to this time, but they get the other shots coming out, 61 damage. But no, that's the first knock that's coming down out of this, but no, it's going to go down to Zunis at this point. So close. I was kind of hoping for the 1v3 just for the moment, let's be real. But
yeah, that would have been insane. It would have been crazy. But listen, Chimp, Fop, and Buzz, you got to put some respect on it. They clap back here. Now they have an actual chance to try and do something big this game. But Freeze and crew, they're rolling on in. They saw the knocks in the feed. They see what all just went down. They also probably noticed the exchange there at the very end. So this is a true opportunity for them to do something big. But I also see Threat and company now just outside. Remember, they picked up all those materials. So they had every right in the world to rotate early. They don't have to stop around and actually farm up. And let's not forget the extra ammo you get from the llama too. So that goes a really long way. And look, they push as far as outside the zone here to try and get active.
Yeah, they're just pushing into a contested drop spot. A very, very common Storm Surge strategy, because you know these fights are going to be lasting a long time. So you can just get the little tags off. You can third party if they're weaker, which in this case we know they're not. But Chimp's team actually going for the full commit on the fight. So potentially they didn't have a very good first game where they were eliminated to Storm Surge. Now they're coming back trying to fix that strategy. And I'm not sure if this is the play. As we also see, remember, Rise, Jamper, and Threats moving in from that north side. They're keeping their distance, but they may be sneaking on up, going for one of those big beams and picking up an easy elimination. Maybe not committing, but Hallow has spotted them and gotten some tags off already.
Yeah, both sides end up exchanging there, but Rise is going to come out on top quite literally here as he manages to grab the high ground with a single tower there. And also note, he got his Parasite knocked off there. They came with the full advantage Parasites in hand too, but now that he doesn't have that, he's a little bit more fragile here. Remember, you can actually tank shots if you do have the Parasite on your head. It gives you all the advantage in a box fight there, and it seems like they decide, yeah, you know what? A tag is cool. We're happy with that. Let's get out of here. They lost their true advantage that they had there, the element of surprise, and of course, there's those Parasites.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, this is the South Zone, so for them, if they want to linger around here too long, it's not gonna work out too well for them. They came in, they got a couple tags, didn't work out in the best way for them, but they didn't lose anything from it, realistically. They gained the tags, now they're gonna move on to a better position. Hopefully, you know, we'll see how it keeps going. Same for Bop, Buzz, and Chimp now. They've just got to clean up the remnants of that fight. The metal is the most important thing that they can do at this point in the game, and the little gold SMG in the inventory that's definitely going to help for those Storm Surge tags a little bit later as well. So hopefully with these guys, we want to see them get the metal, hit that rotate earlier, because they've already got a good bit of the Storm Surge tags sorted already.
That's important. It's very, very important. You saw what happened in that last game. Teams on high ground didn't have the surge there to play with, and it gets very, very dicey. And again, just a small taste, like we mentioned. Yes, the first couple of teams are probably going to get knocked out, but things are going to slow down, and no way. Rise, Jamper, and Threat find themselves a third llama, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to fully cap out. They have found a llama for each player on the team, and that means they have 3 chug cannons as well. Minis, big pots, chug cannons. This is like infinite heals. Is this even fair? Like, hello?
I mean, you know what's funny is, like, I envision the way this game's gonna go already. They're thinking we have all the heals sorted. We're playing low ground. They go for the triple chug play to heal off. They lose, and they go, how do we lose? They go back and they check in the replays, and they see a guy with 40 cabbages just still munching on them all the way through. We almost saw that basic exact same thing in the Asia region as well, where the team on height had a ton of floppers, and once it was over, you dropped back down to the team on low ground, and there's just cabbages everywhere. There's slurp cannons everywhere. It was so unpredictable for heal off potential.
And that's the thing, in this kind of setting where the win matters, I mean, heal-offs are just so dominant, right? Like, that's such an easy win condition to check off. So tons of teams are going to be bringing heals and chug cannons to the end game. If you catch the right refresher, first of all, with their full trio having, like, 3 chugs on their own, they can very well have a situation like that where there's just tons of heals, and it just makes more sense to possibly sit behind. We'll find out. Here's Check, Hollow, and Freeze, though, coming straight out of their drop spot. We saw them at Believer Beach, that little bit of a standoff there. It really digs into their materials. See how they barely have anything right now, and this is desperate for them, going through opponents' old builds here, just trying to find anything.
Yep, and remember, there's a lot of teams that will be situated in very, very good positions at this point. Only 9 players have gone down, so 3 full teams, I think, have been completely wiped at this point as the first zone starts to close. And this game is a little bit more stacked than the previous as we go to that area I was talking about earlier, the Guardian Tower on the Lazy Lake. where we see Easy's team fighting here, and this is just kind of a long drawn out one. You can see their materials not looking so good either, but at least they managed to claim the high ground position, the power position up here for them. They're going to play slow, but you know things aren't going that well when they're just in a single box up on top, right? With a bit of wood at the back, they could easily be triple sprayed through.
Yeah, that's not a well thought out plan there, as we kind of talk about it. Another base is built here, very nice, but still that 1 weak wall. Look, they already start to get focused there. It comes down instantly, and Edge all of a sudden takes a tag, and doesn't seem like they learned their lesson by any means. I'd say that's just pressure kicking in at this point right now. That atmosphere is going to be very, very intense here whenever shots are being exchanged. Here though on the other side, Parasites for Swappy, Ball and Isipo here, and they're trying to get inside the box right now. They have the opponents behind the wall, but these are all fresh structures, so they do have to be careful, as the team can be lurking behind any single wall there. That's really how these interior builds end up going through, but no, they don't want to get inside the box. Instead, they're going to go ahead and rotate here.
Yeah, no, they've got the hard bands they need. They just need to rotate, grab some wood, and get set up in a good position, right? They have the ability to rotate from here. There's no need to throw the whole game, and that's one of the things that we see. We see a lot more tactical disengages usually when it comes to these reboot rounds, that teams just don't want to take those fights because they don't want to risk it. And some teams don't care about that, and they just want to risk it. They go for the fights that we see, not so far in NAE so far, but I'm sure we're going to see some fights later on that are, you know, interesting ones all the time. They just want to go for them.
I mean, yeah, what was Jonathan thinking, right? And Gandhi and Six there, right? Their jobs, that was very questionable. Do you really need to finish that fight off? Not really, right? Especially when you know that the games are going to kick off at a pretty quick pace anyway. So it's things like that that you have to weigh here. In the feed, though, Tragics find Sparebow. Once again, they just end up crossing paths. A little knock could be from the hands of a sniper, but unlikely, right? They didn't have room for snipers. They had chug cannons, ARs, and shotguns. So pretty tough to see how that knock came about.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, heals are so important in this. Interestingly enough, we actually hadn't seen too many heal offs on EU, apart from, I think the first one was a big heal off, but not even like super deep like some of the other regions that we've seen. So I am wondering if NA East is going to turn out the same way, where we're just going to see regular ends, kind of like that first game that we saw from Wrigley, or if we're going to see more crazy heal offs that involve the cabbages, the sweet corn, and all of these interesting chug cannons at the same time, or not. But that all takes inventory space, and we see Rise Jumper Threats have 3. We know they have the 3 chug cannons, so if they want to take anything else, they have to start sacrificing, be it minis, be it an AR, be it their pumps, which obviously, let's be real, they're not going to do with those 2 weapons, but they're going to have to start dropping their minis, and then if they start to get tagged up later on, and if they're really applying that pressure, it could be tough if they start using all of those chug heals at the same time. They have to wait for them to reload, and then they don't have the minis in their inventory to fix that up, and they get pushed, and it could be over for them. So inventory management in these kind of games is very interesting.
Yeah, definitely important. One of the most important here. Back with the team that is 99 damage below now. This is a pretty desperate spot to be in here. They're trying to figure out their heal situation, get the HP up. They're going to have to, but again, we see these teams making these mistakes here, these false walls. You cannot have wood structures protecting your backside there, especially when you are healing. You can see the punishment, no hesitation from the teams nearby. They're going to give them a little moment to go in and get their heals off, but still, that's crucial seconds that they need to get closer and closer for one of these fights.
Is indeed to see the team start to now get into a difficult engagement as 2 teams are rotating, and then Swappy's team being held by Kyoto's team at the same time. It seems like this engagement is going to actually start to go in. I'm guessing one of the teams, potentially Kyoto's team, is below on the Storm Surge, as Swappy is just going to create a lot of space. Some anti-W key measures here as much as possible, because they're below the Storm Surge threshold at 188, so they're going to have to create space then up their back to get a Storm Surge.
Yeah, both sides very desperate. They definitely need Surge. There's no other reason for them to face check this box, and Chucky's gonna find Swappy right there with the instant 100 pump to the face. Furious and Sizlucky are gonna rotate in too. They see the fight breaking out. They know exactly what's going on here, and they want to get a couple extra tags here in the process as well. And there it is. All of a sudden, Cryptid just gets bodied super quick before you can even see what happens. That's a surge that comes in. It will instantly annihilate you and take you out of the game. That's why there was no down body in that moment right there. But as Furious is lucky and Nowsy come on in, you find a couple tags, and it seems like they're still deciding what it is that they want to do. Sizz a bit indecisive there in the back, probably making the call to back off. But Furious, he's on the front lines right now.
Yeah, they're hearing that audio of Sippos, who is a solo at this moment, being tagged by the Storm Surge near them, and they're thinking that could be free tags. But again, they are not being the super confident plays like we heard earlier we talked about. They're going to hit the disengage, they're going to get the rotate, they're going to be smart because they understand this third zone positioning is so important in getting closer to the center of this. And in particular, I already mentioned this zone where it covers so much of the water. I haven't seen the exact full extent of it, but most likely that south side is where a lot of these teams will end up being situated if it's closer to the center, because this big open space on the water just means you're going to get held on those rotates. Okay, I take it back. That east side in that little hill is dead in the center there.
Saw a big knock in the feed there. Looks like Gandhi, Sticks, and Calc already wrapped up, taken out as well. Animal, Uzi, Evasion down 2. Couple teams being traded out here. Super unfortunate, as again, we saw them having a bit of a big game for them, big potential. One of the teams that just recognized that they want to play for high ground, but Jamper Threats and Rise getting back into this action here. It seems like they've caught themselves in between the other team. It's only a 2-man operation on the other side of the wall, though. Rise still playing very defensively. He's going to back up here. What kind of information do they have, though? How much do they know about this trio's push? Seems like they want to go in and take matters into the end game, though, as they don't put up a fight backwards and instead just try to wait this one out.
Yeah, with the 2 eliminations with plenty of space, it wouldn't make much sense to be able to try and get into an engagement at this point. So they're going to slow things down, keep their distance, and play things safe as this third zone comes to a close. You can see they've already got the car boxed up, which across the water, you know, we know the physics of those are very interesting, so they can still make their rotates across pretty far at the same time as it needs to go. It'll work, I believe in it, as long as they don't get focused too much. Like, one of the biggest issues of using cars at this point in the game is that when it gets shot and blown up, it causes fire everywhere. But if you're driving across water, you don't have to worry about that too much.
Yeah, but then again, it's Fortnite. Have you really tested it? For all we know, the water can catch on fire here.
I have not.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation. We'll find out here. It just depends. But take a look here. 2 seconds, guys. Important time now. Zone pops. It comes to the island. This is so good for Jamper Threats and Rise. It's amazing for Furious, Lucky, and Nounsy, who are just right there. It kind of pulls their way, really favoring the teams that had to make the long trek down. So this is an interesting end game, though, ultimately, though, because we have basically 3 islands, right? That's going to really get cut off to 3 baby land masses here, and then all that water in the center. No one's going to be there. So it's going to start to jam-pack these teams on top of one another for the half in, half out.
And then on top of that, the rotates become so difficult if you have to get to one of those other land masses and you don't have the ability to find a launch pad. For any of these teams right now, being on a high layer is what's going to be really, really good. Unlike what Furious's team is doing. You've got to understand that all of those teams up on that north side from them are way higher. Are they going to be able to reuse a launch pad if they have to go max? Almost definitely not. So it does seem like Furious has one in his inventory at the same time, so he may have to just play safe and use theirs if they only have one. That may not lose theirs or moving zones at that point as well, so they may have to use it a little bit early, which could be tough. But again, all the teams on height right now are in a critical position. You see Rhythmic's team up on height on the Spire, who've been there for a long time, and all the teams will be congested on that north side. Despite the fact they're going to be congested with tons of other teams, if they pull zone, they are in a good spot to use pads and reuse pads as well.
Other teams still alive, though. Illismac with Tragic still up. Niddle, Casker, and Smack this time have made it through the early game. Beef, Lupian, and Zucky, these are all names that we want to see. And look, talk about Beef, Lupian, and Zucky. They're going to focus right now, trying to make their way to this little piece of land like we talked about. It's barely any to work with, but you do have to cross through. Rise, Jamper, and company are also going to have to make a move here soon as well. They've committed so much resource here on the backside of the zone, but it's not completely safe. They are going to have to make it past the center piece of the map here. Granted, they can sweep around the front side. They were just protecting the back of their tarp, and it seems like now they're going to make that cut across. Let's hope that zone ends up pulling in favor of the team you're rooting for right now, because you know it's going to be a 3-way battle at this point for who gets at least the piece of land first.
Yeah, with 66 players up as this zone's about to close, this is gonna get hectic for Loopy and Beef and Zuki right now. You can see that it's just a warning for Threshold. This shows that they're 200 below, but they have to start getting aggressive because they do not have a lot of time. When that 5th zone shows, that is when they're gonna have to start hitting the shots, or it's gonna start hitting them back as they start to get traded back from an entire team taking angles, but not too many shots. It seems like multiple may have missed here, but no, Beef actually goes down. So Lupian is gonna get back. They're gonna go for the hold as the pressure starts to come out, and they didn't seem to get basically anything from that. I take it back. They did manage to get above, actually 150 above, so hopefully they can get the res up here. They do. Both teams are going to slow down, and that trade for Storm Surge may have been worth it for both teams to keep them in the running, but there's still a lot of players who need to go down from now on.
It's very, very unlikely that a team will end up surviving that, especially after a knock this late in the game. But you know what? It works out. Lupian, Beef, and Zucky are granted an additional lifeline here to stay alive in the game. Spider Sense is kicking in, though. They're feeling like, hey, there might be a team under there. He was right, but little did he know he didn't take the shots to actually check that wall. That's probably a team super desperate right now, because look at the map. Those guys are packed like sardines on the other side of the map. These guys are going to have to cross all the way through. So if they keep eyes on the water, there could be free siphons here to be granted out, picked up along the way. And yes, we talk about them desperate. This team has no shield. There was like barely any HP in this little back corner right there. Strace and Elysian will fight right now on the edge. Elysian going to pop his launch pad there and gets the new storm line. And this is it. We're gearing up for the end game. And it looks like Jamper Threat and Rise pull another lucky pull, by the way, as Zone does end up landing back here.
That's lucky. And look, that quick stat. In Reboot Round, an average of 6 height exchanges will happen in comparison to the regular 2 you'll see in a normal game. And back in that first game, that's basically exactly what we saw. We saw height consistently changing, being shot out, new teams going for it, new teams padding up on top of it as well. In this game, I'm sure the teams that we're going to be seeing up on high ground at this 5th zone through that 6th zone, the first moving, are all going to change as well. We, honestly, if you want to take high ground and win, I would not be trying to claim it as early as a lot of these teams have been doing, because I don't know if I've seen a single game won across the regions where teams will take it at this 5th zone and somehow maintain it through every moving zone when all eyes are on it from every single angle of the lobby.
I was going to say, that's the catch, isn't it? Holding it high ground and doing it correctly. It you know, it might feel good if you have it right now, but the likelihood of you being able to survive this, it's just very, very unlikely. It's difficult, but for Assassin and crew up top, I mean, they have the first stab at it. They do get to attempt. It's just going to come down to whether or not they have enough fuel in the tank here to survive the distance. It's not looking likely, though. Assassin barely has any... Oh, no. He just slipped off the build. My gosh.
That's not good. That is not good at all. That could potentially choke it. They look to reuse that launch pattern, but unfortunately fell and took 80 fall damage. That's going to be most of the white heals that they have basically used up here already. And yes, he gets beamed in the back, straight down to 42 HP. Popping that flopper will have just saved his life in this. Rhythmic also low as well, along with Coconut, who's still in it, but they seem to be awfully split.
I don't know how he just managed to survive this, but he does end up recouping, gathering his wits back together here. They're standing inside an enemy box, though. This is all, it's just all looking bad here. On high ground, no, Spearbow still alive, reposed. I know Felix was out of the game. He was taken about Macwood by just a little bit ago, but all of a sudden, Pose and Spearbow actually holding it down right now. Okay. So a 2-man operation on height. We already know, though, teams are going to start looking upwards real soon now. Jamper, Threat, and Rise still in this game as well. 4 elims already for the Power Trio right here. This is arguably one of the most experienced teams in the game right now. Just look at this. They are leading the zone beautifully at the moment, working their way right around the outskirts. But how do you play this one? He sees the enemy wall. Look, once again, branches out from there. He is just doing an excellent job guiding his team through this end game. But Buzz looking up for high ground right now. Pose and Spearbow have to be careful as another team is starting to look up for height. And there it is. Spearbow goes down. Ale's gonna find him in the feed there, but Rise gets jumped on too. Jamper and Threat have to clutch up once again here. It's a 3v2 situation.
3v2, and they've lost Rise with also losing that Chug Jug at the same time. So they've lost the heal off potential that they may possibly have. We see Pump still on the right hand side, your Scream Nade. Spike on that left hand side, still in as a full trio at the same time as well. But back to Jamper and Threats, who are in as a duo. 5 eliminations to their name at this point. They are looking good. But up on high ground, Tragic, Macwood, and Illist have the #1 spot. The kings on top of the castle. Will they be able to retain their throne throughout the entire game?
This is it. The throne is theirs right now, but like you mentioned, will they be overtaken here or not? I mean, this is all enemy builds. It's old structure, so this is not safe by any means. Jamper's starting to peek up for high ground. He's thinking about it. He goes up. He finds a little piece of the land that's not taken over, and he's going to commit. He's going to go all the way, and it's a build battle. It's an all-out breakout for height, and he is keeping track of the opponent beautifully there. But remember, the higher you build, the more likely he is to get chopped down here. He does have the heal condition. He is down to 40 mats here. Macwood tries to break it down. Threat's on the bottom fighting. If Threat wins this fight here, they can actually do it. Jamper's gonna win one. That's onto Tragic's, the siphon waiting for him. He needs the material to get down, though. It's desperate. He's gonna get it. Beautifully done there. And now he gets blocked out, though. Unfortunately, good reads. And here it is. Threat's there to back him up. Oh my gosh, another team lands on them and they find that one too. And Jamper and Threats are actually popping off right now.
They are. They've got 9 eliminations to their name, but no, Pump
gosh.
on high ground as a solo has managed to somehow take it, and he's taken out Threats as well. So Jamper as another solo v solo up on high is still in it, but it seems like Slick's team has also seen what's going on and they're starting to go up. Goku and Shark are pumping and cramping to get up to where Pump's position is. They're going for a chop out yet again, and this could be it. 27, the shots continue to come out, but somehow he is still in this. But it seems like Goku, Sharkman, and Slick have claimed high ground as a full trio with the chug cannon in hand on the low ground. Dusky and Spade not slept in for this one, with Bump in the middle at the same time. The pressure comes out, but he is down to such white HP. It seems like the full trio should be able to claim this up on high ground.
That's it. This is it. It's the victory lap at this point for Goku and crew. And Goku hits the shot on the way down. Down goes Dusky. Out the door goes Spade to the zone. And just like that, Slick, Shark, and Goku take home the Reboot Round game number 2 in an honest, spectacular fashion right there. You know, last comes, last win right there, because it's about the timing there, Reese.
Yeah, it's all about the timing. Like we said, we saw that height change over and over and over, and from Threats team to do that height retake at that point was such a good play, right? They're alive as a duo. To be honest, Psychoing high ground is pretty much one of the only chances they're going to get to win, and it looked like it was potential to be there, but let's be real, Slicks, Shark, and Goku took away with it at the end. They were still alive as a full trio, using that to capitalize and win the game in beautiful fashion. Obviously punch their tickets through the finals too, but let's send it back to the boys on the desk to see what they've got to say about it as well.
I have never felt more justified in my entire life. I literally, before this game, was like, hey, if these guys can stay together as a trio, we could see some wins. Bing, bang, bosh. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about, very rarely. I just use mine up for the month.
Oh man, we've seen some absolutely crazy height plays going on now. There's been like in every single game, there's been a height change like I don't even know, like 7 times or something like that. It looked so good for Macwood's team at one point there because they had a whole trio alive, and then all of a sudden Jamper's up on a height, getting an elim on Tragics. But man, let me tell you something. Jamper and Co had such a run there. They found 3 llamas during that game. They had everything going for them. Couldn't pick it up though. Goku just getting the outplays there.
Yeah, and you know, I am really happy for these guys as well. Obviously, I've mentioned it a couple of times. They were desperate to get into semi-finals last week. They needed to have a really good qualifier and qualifier 3 to actually get into semis in the first place. And they actually have now got a Reboot Round ticket all the way through to finals. Incredible. But as we saw here, Vivian mentioned, I mean, it's rare to get a llama. To get 2, really rare. 3 though, mad. This is mad. Spotlight here we can see on Goku, Sharkman, and Slickman as well. Congratulations to these guys. Really happy for them. I think switch things up as well. I think they were dropping a Coral recently. Today, Lazy Lake, and you can see here it's made a massive difference. Eliminations 5 in that last game. Total qualifier finished 7th. But placed 17th in heats as well. So if we think about this as now, we actually had a team that placed 14th in heats and now 17th in heats, which is absolutely, it's just insane, Vivid.
Yeah, and this will actually be a Sharkman's and Slickman's first FNCS finals. As you see there, little FNCS finals, both of those were from Goku. And last season, Goku made it through from the Reboot Round last season as well. So this guy is on a tear when it comes to Reboot Rounds.
Yeah. I might think of this as well. Was Goku? I think Goku was actually partnered with D-Roller and Spegu in the last round. Forgive me. I think that was a trio where he was definitely playing with those guys who already qualified as well. So used to being there, as you guys said, and absolutely amazing. But let's take a look at the Victory Royale as well and what happened at kind of the end game, because it was magical stuff. Yeah, we always knew Reboot Rounds were going to get pretty crazy on the high ground. That's exactly what happened. As you can see here, Goku, Sharkman, and Slick dominating up top here. Cronus actually did have a bit of high at one stage, but those guys came back around and they maintained it. They had themselves the chugs as well. Having that at the end game, the 3 of them set so nicely as well. Everyone below them, the rest of the pack. I mean, it was going only one way, and that was Team Goku.
Yeah, I think if we really learned anything from this game, it's that it doesn't really matter if you have height at this like last moving zone stage. If you have your whole trio alive, you just have such a number advantage on anybody that has had height at that point, because they have to fend off so many different teams. We saw, like I said, we saw like 7 height changes right there, and that many changes, it's just not going to leave any team stabilized up on height. So if you have a full trio life in that 9th moving zone there, you can take height so easily just based on the numbers game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as well with these guys as well what's going to happen next week. Obviously going into finals now. Saf's, I believe, still going to Lazy Lake, so we'll have to see what happens there where they change things up. A lot of trios are just changing POIs tonight as well. So we're going to see next week, are they going to go back? Are they going to stick? I mean, it's all to be debated in this next week, which obviously is really exciting for them, because this is when they actually get to plan their plan of attack for finals, where it's all down to 12 games, and at the end of it, someone's going to get the Axe of Champions. Could be those guys. Who knows?
That would be pretty wild. That would absolutely be wild for the trio. And this is actually the second trio we've seen on the day that has made it through in that 17th qualifying spot. We saw something similar happen in EU. So it's cool, man. This is the beauty of the Reboot Round. Anything can happen. But I like as well in this game, we saw the trio. They got offensive. They said, we're not going to allow you to take it to the heal off. Vivid, that's the pressure that we need if we want the VR, dude.
That is the pressure. You always got to be applying pressure. But to talk a little bit about the drop spot meta, like Adam had mentioned, you know, we're in the finals. But what about the rest of these 2 games, right? When teams win these games, they are taken out of the pool of players, which means that wherever they were landing now opens up. So Lazy Lake is now open for grabs. So we could see some contention there. Maybe 1 team, maybe 2 teams, maybe 3 teams will be like, oh, I want to go there since nobody's there now, right? So always got to pay attention to what's going on the map based on what's happening in the game.
Absolutely beautiful and insightful, Vivid. As always, you heard the battle bus, which means we are ready to go. We're getting back on board. So MDF, Reese, let's do this, baby. Game number 3.
Here it is. We're booting up for game number 3 right now of the Reboot Round. What team will be able to walk away with it here and now? We already saw the stats. Multiple teams clawing their way up for high ground here. No success, though. In the end, it was the team that came up last who took it all home. And, man, what a game that was. Big, I guess hats off, man, to Slick and his crew. Honestly, putting in all that work there on the content side, but now on the front lines for the FNCS as well.
Yeah, the straight through to finals is a really good feeling. In particular, like we already mentioned, the stress of doing it in the Reboot Round is now over for Slick, Shark, and Goku. It's very difficult to make it through here, but I'm sure the relief is absolutely incredible. And look, I want to watch those on Twitter. Let's be real. So if you're one of the teams who wonder, Slick, Shark, and Goku, and you've not posted your clip on Twitter yet, do it right now, because I want to watch it.
Yeah, dude, I watched Wrigley's and that was awesome, seeing the perspective there from the other side, right? You don't get the full story, but hold up, Edge here, he's got big boots to fill. He's got to clutch up for his team, but no, he gets hunted down. Talk about Lazy Lake being an opportunity to be snatched up by some teams. Looks like Trap, Neon, and KJ. They don't want to leave it to a contested drop like before. Instead, they come here and they win the drop.
Yeah, I think that means the big Jonathan is uncontested up in Craggy Cliffs right now and co. So they definitely have it set up for a better game as well. Same with Macwood, Tragic, and Illust, who we saw take height, but tragedy struck as we saw many iterations of players taking high ground from them. So it looked good for them in that game. It was, you know, not so great in the game before when we saw with that triple spray, but right now it's looking good for them. In particular with the loot, you saw Macwood there picking up that gold tactical shotgun. So they're going to hopefully have to get better this game as well. Both their games have improved. Hopefully this one could do the same.
It's pretty clear that in the end game, the mistake the players make is thinking about elims and working their way down. Like, they have to get on Reboot Round mode. Stay high and just move along, right? Like, get to the end and then come down. The problem is they're letting their guard down, right? They're playing it like a traditional end game for points, where you come down, you look for elims, you get aggressive, right? You're trying to get those refreshers, but then everyone comes up. They start landing on you, right?
I was expecting NAE to have more of a heal-off game play, right? I'd expected this region to adapt more to that play style, and you know, realistically what we've seen is they've adapted very well to the height retake playstyle, but not so much to the height hold playstyle. Yep. So everyone's understanding that height will win them the games, but with so many turnovers of it, it's just being a risky strategy, which, to be honest, isn't a bad play. Like I said with Rise, Jumper, and Threats, when they went up as a duo rather than a trio, what was the other play they would make, right? A full trio would probably be able to maintain high ground if they stayed low. They might have gotten into a scrappy fight and won, but then they're kind of scuffed for later on. So going for high ground as the duo was the play. And I'm guessing that's what a lot of these teams are thinking at the same time. They go, you know what? Victory Royale potential is up there. Get on this launch pad and let's see what happens.
And they almost did it, like almost pulled it off there. All he needed was honestly to not get tagged in the process, right? If he had a little bit more HP, if the Siphon would have gave him shield and a little bit of comfort there, that would have been it. But out of nowhere, man, Pump had a different story in mind, right? He kind of snuck up on him.
Yep.
It kind of foiled the entire strategy that they put in, because if it wasn't for that, I think they would have won the game. I think they would have had enough to kind of regain the positioning, right, that they put themselves in and put that pressure down. That's the only difference that we haven't really seen a high ground team get very comfortable up there because of all the chaos.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see eventually an extremely high hold, being those extra layers above in that full metal, but no one has those materials left to do it yet, and every time we do it, they get sprayed out because they're not in the hard mats yet, and they're doing it too early in that 5th zone and 6th zone too. So maybe at some point we'll see that height hold being kept throughout these next 2 games, but you know what? I doubt it. I think it's just going to be chaos every single match.
It could click. It could click, but first you got to get through these fights here. Teams are popping off here. Ale and Crispy Skills all of a sudden jumping in on this crew right now. They don't have a care in the world here. And this is that fearless aggression that you have to be afraid of at this point, as Ale's going to win one of his ones. He chews. Oh, no. I was going to say chews up a big shot right there, and all of a sudden Crispy does manage to clutch up, but it wasn't looking good for a second there as Ale just whiffed a major shot when it mattered most.
Yeah, your heart starts to beat real quickly once you've lost 2 of your members. Even if you have that HP advantage, you know that player's on the other side of the wall. One bad edit, one whiffed shot could mean the end of the match for them. So good job staying calm, under composure, hitting the shot that matters. He's going to get the revive up on his teammates. Now the game's theirs. They also, remember, have all this loot. They've just picked up 3 eliminations in there, so they have all the loot in there. They're going to have all the metal to harvest out. They are setting themselves up really, really nicely for this game.
Here's the big threats. Making a move right now. Now, last game, if y'all are just tuning into the reboot round, these guys found 3 llamas in the vicinity. Like we said, that was the perfect storm for them. Like, yeah, just to have all that HP, all that sustainability. And then not only that, they pulled so many zones, right? The way the zones worked out in that last game was ridiculous. Hopping on over with the Liege, Agent Jeff here, Mr. Oliver OG. It seems like they're going to go in and win up, wipe up a team right now. 1 player left as a solo is going to go in and scramble on out of here. They're okay with that. This is huge tags for them. This is big loot right now, and they're on top at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to remember, this west side is going to allow them to fish, which hopefully should give them good heal off potential. You know, we keep talking about heal off. We keep going heal off, heal off, heal off, but we've not seen it yet. So maybe if we start getting some zones in the end game that keep pulling back over itself, these teams who are prepped for heal off more with their med kits, with the floppers, with the chug cannons, potentially will rise. No pun intended, as we switch over to Jamper threats and rise here. We're finding another llama. Like, I wasn't even calculating what was happening at that point.
Yeah, listen, it's all just starting to connect here. I mean, once again, Lucky Stars line, another chug cannon in hand. We already know how good that can be. It's the perfect weapon to have right now, the perfect utility item, if you will. Multiple vehicles here as well with the big boy wheels on them, so this is a lot to work with there too. Oliver OG is going to find a llama as well on the other side, and looks like all the fan favorites are getting pretty gifted at this moment. It seems like the vibes are coming in pretty hot right now, and you know, more hope on this field at the moment for Jeff, Oliver, and Alicia at the moment.
Definitely, they've got the heals, they have the loot, they have the materials. Now all they need is the positioning and a little bit of good plays in terms of rotations too. I think they're going to be awfully frightened of the taxis and also the cars that they have in this area, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't take them on the rotate that they need to make to get max distance. So hopefully this can be their game at the same time. You know, they've had the unfortunate season for them so far. Let's be real. They should, in their mind, have qualified through to the finals, but that's just not how it plays out sometimes. They didn't hit that top 6 in the East yesterday, so they have to be able to get a victory royale today to make it in there. And I'm sure, like we said at the top of the show, a lot of these people out here watching will be rooting for this trio to make sure they punch a ticket through to the finals.
It's very possible here and now. I mean, it hasn't looked any better for them coming into this. Now they have all parasites as well. That's something that's very, very important here that they can utilize if they can bring that to endgame. That's massive. On the other side, the threats Jamper and company find another llama here. There's time. No, another team shooting in from the distance as they wanted to fight for it, but they're going to go on and secure this one up. Once again, sitting on excess material now. Extra metal here. I mean, they're sort of, I guess, on the outer edge of the zone. You don't really want to park here or stay here. might as well get back in the vehicle, get back to that positioning game, because as we saw, the zone is going pretty deep into the east side.
Yeah, but they got 2 llamas again. Like, what is that? What is that? That's them set up. But honestly, a lot of the teams that we've been seeing who've got tons of llamas in terms of the chug cannons haven't actually been performing in the way, you know, it looks like good RNG, and it obviously is. Let's be real. I'm not saying it's not good RNG, but the teams who are getting a ton don't necessarily need to be actually popping off with it.
I think honestly, I mean, Jamper, Threat, and Rise, they played pretty well last game. Like, they made it to the end. It's just, you just got to connect. Like, winning is no easy feat. But take a look here. Vez Trio and Spades Trio have both finished in the top 5 in the first 2 games. Once again, like we talked about, you could be as consistent. You can be the best team as far as overall placement goes in this game, but you have to take a win. You got to meet that condition. You have to meet the Victory Royale condition if you want to go to finals. That's just going to be the heartbreaking truth of it. I mean, at the end, we're gonna have some great stats of teams that just played, you know, out of their minds, right? 4 games. That's a mini tournament in its own. Most pros are used to playing a traditional 6. 4 is you know, more than enough to show who's the best on the day, but you gotta just take a win here.
Yep. And like I said, that's gonna cause a lot of heartbreak, but at the same time, a lot of really good moments and a lot of really good clips. For Twitter, for these players' socials, you know, when people win the reboot round games, usually their socials just blow up when they have these huge, big clutch pop-off potential. It's so good to watch. It's just such a good viewer experience. Everyone's hooked, everyone's paying attention to it, and at the same time, look, obviously they want to qualify through the finals, and that's the icing on the cake as well.
Yeah, definitely that thing they're fighting for here, of course, that very prestigious final spot. Uphill battle for most. It's been a grueling several weeks of competition, qualifier after qualifier. Consistency is what got them all the way through to the series points rounds there to be put in the heats in the first place. So all of these teams exceptional across the board. Looking at the best of the best right now. Jamper, Threat, and Rise back at it. Once again, a team that's been just on a W streak in recent times. Super unfortunate for them to have not found their way to that top 6. Got close, but not close enough. Back in the vehicle there go, though. It's very lit up. Riding this all the way.
Intense. Yeah, okay. I'd be jumping out of here very quickly trying to find another car. If that gets hit, it's going to be wraps. Even with the wheels starting to tear, you can see the HP starts to drip down. But yes, they're going to get out. They're going to start doing it by foot as it's hidden behind and potentially taking another vehicle to get that rotate, because they are still, as far as I remembered, on that full west side of the zone. But checking in with the north side of the zone, Tragic, Macwood, and Illust up in Orchard on a very nice high ground position, but Illust yet again gets triple beamed in the back, exactly the same as game number 1. An awareness check needs to come through onto Illust here. It's unfortunately just not happened again. You'd think that lesson learned after game number 1.
I mean, luckily he does not go down. He was a tag away from being finished there, just quick enough on the draw to save himself, but it's going to cost him very crucial heals here. Let's be honest, man. A big pot, couple minis, and a med kit already. That's just setting them back ever so slightly at the moment. They are going to need a couple more tags, though, if they want to be completely safe. And this is the first time we've seen such a steep, I say, zone 1 surge potential to come now.
Yep, this is basically one of the heavier ones that we've seen. I think there'll still be another couple of people picked off. We've seen a lot of eliminations come through between this kind of next 1 minute mark before the Storms actually becomes active in the majority of the previous matches so far. So it'll be maybe 7 rough players will be able to be eliminated at this point, which, you know, for NA East is still relatively low in comparison to their normal. Let's be real. We're used to seeing mid 80s, like 85 players alive that point, but still, that's just what happens in the more difficult situations and the awkward pressure of the reboot round.
Now look at that. Macwood finds another base with some wood there, tries to get the focus on in. He finds another wood wall here. These are the builds you want to take advantage of. This is what we talk about. Teams, especially veteran ones, will focus targets behind those weak walls, looking to get some cheap tags in there. And then you never know when an Illis kind of situation happens and you go down. Zuni's on the other side, though, popping off here with AV and Mikey. They're going to find the first knock. This is on to Crispy. We saw Crispy do some big things earlier. This time, though, not looking too hot as they're fighting inside the zone right now. So even for Zuni's, I mean, this is a very questionable battle. Big shot onto Mikey there. He's punished. They're going to have to back up a little bit right now, potentially use these floppers as now other teams are holding them out here. It's Hollow, check and freeze. Trouble on the horizon. Another knock comes through. Zuni's does not end up winning that fight there. This is not looking great for them, not by any means. And another team Focusing in from the eastern side, it's Jamper Threat and Rise. They never left the gas station there. Instead, they've built up and they found themselves some free tags.
Yeah, they're aware. They understood that all those players were in the back as they rotated, and for good reason. They can sit there, hold them all. But for Aile's team, who's lost a member, they're trying to get in as a duo held by two separate teams as that revive comes up onto Zuni's. But now they're going to have to use all of those white heals that they tried to hold throughout the entire game so far. You can see Mikey popping the med kit in the back of the storm there. Same with Zuni. AV is going to try to get in and just build whatever he can, but he's going to just start to chunk down on HP, and hopefully the teams won't start to key him as we see Skills get close to him on the wall, as Ale is also actually now picked up. It looks like potentially what was to the storm rather than the other team, because Hallow's team does seem to be disengaging from this fight.
Oh, no way. Mikey gets tagged on the way in. That was the most unfortunate snipe. Running snipe, and then Skills gets the finish too. So unlucky. I hate to say it, but that's how it's going to happen. At least he's going to get picked up here. Another setback because the heals are going to have to be invested here. The time that they don't really have, is now the zone's going to be moving as well. And Zuni's, AV, and Mikey find themselves in a very desperate situation. AV does have this inflatable, so he will be able to use this as advantage. But I mean, this is going to be very, very rough. He's got quite a run to go. It's a pretty center zone, so everyone's going to be moving at relatively the same pressure in this current time. As Macwood finds Rift in the field there. Look at that. Tragic's on Security. So that's the team that was just underneath them at the house by the orchard. Looks like that fight might have broken out, or a long distance engagement from that high ground positioning they had. Yeah,
you can see they were on low ground when we look back to them there. And honestly, one of the things I actually hope now looking at Zuni's team is that they understand that that north side is going to be the dead side still. And there's so many teams who've just got themselves into center. And I'm going to say, if AV's team here, along with Mikey and Zuni's, win this game, this will be a huge comeback, given the way that they've just been fighting edge to edge, storm to storm, and now the lobby spray is starting to come out as they understand where they are positioned. There it is. It's Freeze's team who has been holding them this whole time, just applying that pressure onto them. But luckily, no one else has started to look that way yet. Jamper's team, you can see the background there, hasn't started to spot that there's potential tags in AV, Zuni's, and Mikey over this side. And for now, they're safe. They've got into storm, they've got into the zone, they're going to heal up. They still have that chug cannon, so the longer they wait, the more charges they're going to get, so the more HP they're going to have as a whole trio, which is going to be good. But again, being on this far west hand side is one of the worst positions you could be for this zone, because where's this next one gonna pop? Let's do the guess. Relatively close, so okay, they got some good RNG about it. That's very
actually
good.
Great. Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, for Freeze and crew too, they're just going to be to edge their way in, have high ground, right? Potentially for that 50-50 draw. For Threats, Jamper, and Rise, once again, they don't have a long rotate to make there either. So AV, Zuni's, and Mikey's get a lucky break here if the high ground team of Freeze, Check, and Hollow decide to move out. Oh, the fact that they're shooting, I think they're questioning whether or not this team has enough builds to actually, weather the storm, weather the pressure that they can apply in right here. Very smart play by them, because, if they check the bluff here, they're going to find out that, yes, this team does not have much to work with.
Yeah, and I think on high ground, I don't think these teams have got tons of materials either. Given that they're situated in wood, and a little bit of brick here, I'm not thinking they've got tons of metal, right? Or they weren't planning to get height, at least this zone. They do have to build in a little bit further than they would need to, so allowing Mikey to build in here is a good idea, because then they can build on top of them. Look, still using wood, not single but metal. There you go. They're going to start tarping out in metal. So maybe not as scuffed, maybe they're just choosing their materials wisely, but at the same time, it was a little bit of an odds just to set up there in wood. Very triple sprayable, which in this lobby, as we've seen in particular with Illust, is definitely not what you want.
Yeah, definitely, and we already know teams are going to look for those points of weakness and try to pressure them. But you know what? That's a team that lands potentially up at the Stealthy Stronghold, right? We saw their positioning coming from that upper side or the core. There's really not much metal up there in general, so makes sense for them not to want to over-invest, right? They really just don't have the luxury to do so. If, again, we had to analyze the situation, kind of weigh the reasons as to why. But here, taking a look at the map, most teams have found their way to safety. A couple still fighting. There's one squad down in the zone there. There's another trio to the west here that I want to bring some focus to, because there's a solo kind of in the mix. Wonder who's having that rough of a game at the moment. We might get a little glimpse here now as he starts to swing on in, but big name still up right now. Jonathan is alive here. Ragandi and Styx. Macwood is alive as well. They've managed to survive the little fight there. Their engagement, their head-to-head, but they've lost Tragics in the process.
and all of the materials too. So only 8 builds, but they're hearing Storm Surge tags, so our team very, very close to them. Not Storm Surge tags, sorry, a crack next to them in terms of their shield going out. So Illis potentially picking up elimination, but no, Wackwood opens up onto a full trio who just triple pump him straight into the face. So now Illis is left alive as a solo, and he is also going to be picked up. So that's going to be the game over for them, what I think was to hide and seek's trio, who has Bucky's trio also right next to them at the same time. So there's 3 full trios sitting in that same spot. Obviously we've just seen one being picked up of Wackwood's trio, which is tough. K-Drop still in this as well, being tagged from Storm Surge. Slats over there too. We do see Alicia's team, who was not the full solo. I think it might be Spade who was the solo who you're looking at earlier, as I'm just trying to catch on the fly through. AV back to him, who we looked at earlier. Still, that 5th zone is going to pull to the south. Hopefully they do have the launch pad, which seems like they do in Mikey's inventory now. They're going to hear the team above them use theirs, so this could be a blessing right now if they can get it reused.
Oh, absolutely. They want to recycle this, right? We knew they had one, though, because of the fact that they had their own chug cannon. Now, I'm curious as to why they didn't set this up as a low pad, though. That's going to be a huge risk. Luckily, the team up top must have been reloading or something there. As Cold just did not get his team to focus in with them, and they get a nice, sweet positioning here. Remember, they don't have a lot of mats to work with, so look at this. They're in a wood base right here, just, you know, sitting between the enemy old builds, just desperately clinging on at this moment, but they're alive. They've made it this far. This is an opportunity for them to dive into a box, find a refresh on the next moving.
Yeah, and with AV and Zuni's, box diving is their forte.
Oh, yeah.
This is the time that they should do it. You see Hallow's team, who's obviously the ones who have been pressuring them from below. That's the kind of guy you got to wait for that opportunity, get them close to you. Maybe break into their old builds, as there's so much around here, and just go for a pop shot, go for a single elimination, and just try to get all of them as quickly as you can. You can see them looking for shots, looking for angles. As we move back down to Jamper, Threats, and Rise doing the exact same thing, looking through that cone, seeing if they can get any shots in the players up above them as well, with so many below. But that first moving is going to pull to the east here. So if the players like Jamper, Threats, and Rise underneath the bridge, with a lot of players building over them, this could be difficult in terms of launch pads.
Well, look at this. They're going to find some white tags there. Not enough for them to fully commit, but there is loot. He's thinking about it. Jamper wants it. This is greedy. This is very, very greedy of them. Look, Jamper's even going to go for the split here. He's going to hop on and snatch this up. The risk is going to pay off. He is going to find some mats there, but my gosh, they didn't really need it. But you know what they're doing? They're trying to, again, get enough material so the next time they go for height, this time they will not gas out. They gassed out last time. They didn't get to finish it. On the side, Sparebow, Felix, Pose still up, focusing onto their lair. Threats gets held into the storm. Everyone's gonna have to move here. Pressure is at an all-time high on height. Crypt, Cold, and Elite managed to hold it out. Will this be the first team to actually do it correctly? It's about getting up, and look, Elite is doing just that. He's actually reading this perfectly. This is the one thing I mentioned at the start, that we have not seen a team fully commit to an extreme height split. You kind of have to, but no, he wasn't calculated enough. He gets landed on, and Elite gives up that prime positioning here. It's up to Cold to fight it off by himself here.
They're doing what they can. Elite potentially may have dropped down, but it seems like he may be going back up.
Leo.
Leo's team is the team who has taken it. Death is still in this as well, and Cold, the whole team still up on high. That seems like a full take. Azuni's now launch pad straight ahead of the zone, still low on their materials with 20 builds total. They're going to start to apply that pressure to any teams. They need to get a pick to keep them moving through this end game. With 4 eliminations to their name, still not looking very good for them at this point.
I mean, I want to remind you guys, Leo, Death, and Spike, they did pick up a victory out yesterday. They were one of the few teams that made it this far with a W. So they have the opportunity here. They've won before. We know they can do it. Look at this. They're going to go into the zone. Zuni's going to go in and commit. This is the side most dangerous kind of high plane. It's going to work. Perfectly land up above. AV Zuni's. Mikey virtually get free hype, but Mikey misses the drop here. He gets landed on. He's going to get tagged too. He's off to the races, just trying to stay up. Down comes a teammate to back him up here. Zuni's got this man inside the storm line. He's going to hop on out. They don't win the shot, though. What happens? He gets taken out. Spike is down. Mikey comes back. He takes fall damage. He's out too. AV saves himself in the pump, though. He is now out of the game, as Trap is going to be the one who swings around now. And what just happened? It was looking so good, and then they threw it all away.
is looking so good, but down on low ground, this looks much more consistent with Jamper, Threats, and Rise claiming this low ground layer and pressuring anyone off it that they can. They're going to go for more eliminations as there's players tagged right next to them. This is critical for them to ensure that they're good in the zone, but they're only left on wood. This is unfortunate. They're going to have to start applying that pressure, picking up the refresh, but they drop 2 down. That's 1 knock. They're getting the body straight back in. This could be the refresh that they need, and it is. Look at that absolute llama of loot that comes out, but it seems like potentially only siphon materials from it at the same time, as we also in that bottom right see Ved, Tabney, and Pump still in this as a full trio as well.
And that was onto Oliver OG. Asian Jeff now the focus here for Threat, Jampers, and Rise. They're still looking up. It's a 3v1. He's playing a good enough of a defense to fend them off. And now all of a sudden, Jamper looks up for high ground again. He sees a small opportunity, but there's too many targets. He doesn't even know who he wants to shoot. He's going to focus on the Spirit Bow. They're going to fight their way in. G5 jumps down, though. Big shots onto Threat and Jamper. They lose it. Felix takes out Jamper. Down he goes. And the Siphon comes through. Pose is still up alive now as well. It's looking very good for Felix and company, but High Ground has a new king on the top. It's Glepo, Brutal, and Berserker. The heal's already coming in. They're looking to bounce back into this, and it's going to be a low ground war here. Who can walk away with the most mats? Who's a full team here? Ved and Tabney's trio are the ones that are up. They're looking the best at the moment.
They're looking the best at the moment. There's also still a solo left remaining in this as Brutal starts to drop down to be brutally applying that pressure too. There is still a solo. It's Felix who is the solo alive at the back of the storm, alive with 2 full trios who are going to be going head to head, but it seems like the username is going to be going for the heal play. 4 floppers. That's it. He dropped back into Storm right now. The other players will not be able to find them. They're going to have to start engaging in this as the time ticks down, as the HP does at the same time. Glepo and Brutal don't seem to have the heal game stuck as they are on wood, but no, everyone is basically eliminated down onto the low ground by Glepo and Brutal as well, allowing that heal play just to go on slow. There's still 11 cabbages on Brutal. 11 cabbages onto him. There's more in his name. There is more. He may be able to find that, as right now the user player consistently applies that pressure, but he has nothing. He has nothing to his name, and he is going to be picked up, and it's going to Brutal, Berserk, and Glepo for game number 3.
And with that, an 11 elimination victory royale, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 3, Brutal, Berserker, and Glepo managed to pull it off there in the final moment. It was a stretch. It was a distant push for them, but you know what? They were the best played team there. Not only that, they had tons of eliminations and somehow ended up on high ground. So I'd love to watch that back from their perspective there, Reese, because it must have been a phenomenal set of refreshers back-to-back for them.
Like you said, I want to see these Twitter clips, boys. If you're winning the heal-offs like that, I want to see it on Twitter. I will like it. I will retweet it. I want to see everything about it. There's such good hype moments to have the comms from the players on at the same time. So look, you've heard our comms enough. Let's go back to the boys on the desk to see what their comms sound like.
Well, Reese, it normally sounds a lot of like, ah! And I'm like, Vivid, stop. Oh my god.
Accurate, Zeke, accurate.
It's me that's yelling. I'm sure you guys already picked up on that. Wow, congratulations to this trio, Brutal and company. They got themselves a victory royale. Once again, guys, Threat, Rise, I just don't understand. The previous game, 3 llamas. This game, 2 llamas. Still doesn't matter. It's not happening.
Yeah, I don't know, watching the little bit there that we caught when Jamper and Rise went down, they were just kind of like chilling on a wood ramp and just like, they're kind of lost from the POV that we were looking at. So I'm not really sure what ended up happening there. Maybe a lack of leadership for some reason at that very moment. But nonetheless, I mean, that heal off was absolutely absurd. I believe the team that was on the low ground there, they kind of went a little bit early for the heal off, in my opinion, right? He had 4 floppers and a chug cannon, but he went into zone when there were still 20 seconds before the zone was fully closed, which means that the team that was on high ground basically had like 20 seconds to just chill while this guy is just eating Storm that whole entire time. Yeah, he did have a lot of heals, but I mean, that 20 seconds, that's like a combined amount, a lot of damage. It's like 200 damage, so he had to use all of his floppers. The floppers were basically, you know, not even a factor there because he went so early.
Yeah, the word of the day is absolutely cabbage. 11 of them. Can you believe it? So many. I mean, that's it comes down to, you know, who has the most heals. And that's why I think we've been so surprised about the Jamper, Threat, and Rise situation, is having had 3 llamas, then 2, having those chug cannons at their disposal. It just seems to be going so right, and then suddenly one wrong decision leads to, you know, deletion. And it's you know, I feel for them, but Brutal, Berserk, and Glee, I feel so good for. I mean, you can see here, 11 eliminations, which is really good considering this is a reboot round as well. But, you know, a top qualifying finish of 18th. Again, heat placement 12th. So far this evening, we've had 14th, 17th, and 12th the finishing in heats over in the semi-finals yesterday. So none of our teams that have gone through in reboot rounds have, in fact, were even in the top 10, which goes to show that the caliber of players out there who can do what they do, delivering it on the day. And you can see they've only had a total of FNCS finals 1, which means they get to go almost brand new into this, and this is fantastic. I'm so great to see it. Let's take a look at some clips here as well of the final kind of end game as well, and how it all kind of came to be with the victory royale. You can see here, you can see Threat at the bottom of the screen there. We suddenly lost Threat, Jamper, and Rise really early on. Then suddenly Brutal, Gleop, and Berserk have that high ground. And as we mentioned before, Monsters mentioned it many times about the high ground, but this time they actually did manage to maintain, and this time the team had everything they needed to just dominate the low ground, and with the heals as well. I mean, Vivid, there was no turning back.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it here, this guy had a total of 21 cabbages, including the 6 that were on the ground there, and he didn't go into the zone until there was like 10 seconds left, which means that the other guy that was on the Lurgan that was tanking, so basically tanked an extra 10 seconds of zone than this guy. And since he had the cabbages, it basically equated to the 4 floppers that guy had. So came down to it, he won the heal off just simply because they had high ground and he could stay inside the zone just a little bit longer.
That's right, guys. These games are absolutely insane. And I hate to see it, man, but these trios, they were like really hoping to make it through. They may not make it. We only have a single game left to go. Fun fact, Berserk was the only member of that trio that's made it to the FNCS finals. So he's bringing his trio mates along with him. They're going to make their first ever FNCS finals. And guess what? They missed game number 1, and yet they've come back to win game number 3. You know,
huge.
Sometimes it just happens like that, man. Fortnite's a crazy game where crazy stuff just happens, and this is proving time and time again. Now, that being said, we've got 10 seconds before we get back on the battle bus. This is the last game here in NA East, so we gotta hope some of these trios can pull through, because right now is the or break moment. Everyone, grab your popcorn, find the nearest chug splash, let's get on the battle bus, because we going back one last time. Let's do this, Reese, MBF, one last time.
Hey, that's right. Take a seat and strap in, guys. Put your safety seat belts on because the battle bus is taking off here. This is it. It's the last game of the reboot round where the final team will punch their ticket to the finals. Too many teams to root for at this moment. I'm watching the timeline. Things are lighting up, Reese. I mean, we have the community quite literally divided now as some of our most skillful teams are still left in the melting pot here.
Yeah, and I think one that a lot of people are looking at right now is Ved, Tabney, and Pump. Ooh. How can you place 4th, 3rd, and then 2nd and be on the edge of your seat? Like, this for these guys is so crazy. Mathematically, a 4th, a 3rd, a 2nd, and then a 1st, right? It's bound to happen in this game, but if not, that is devastating to have those kind of placements in the reboot round and not be able to pick up the victory royale.
Yeah, not only that, 25 elims, ladies and gentlemen, and an average time alive of 25 minutes and 46 seconds. They have quite literally made every single end game to just about the pinnacle of the distance you can go in each and every one of those rounds. So mere moments separate them from actually, you know, succeeding here and picking up a victory. As you see teams fall though in the feed though, Reese, just know that's it. Their tournament runs over. This FNCS is not theirs.
That's true. I want to quickly go back to them for 1 second, because for Ved, Tabney, and Pump in qualifier 2, they placed 4th. So they missed out by a single placement threshold as well. This reminds me of Kamisei Teak from the previous season, but I want to see the comeback story in the final game for Ved, Tabney, and Pump, where they make it and pick up the victory royale, because for them, this has been a devastatingly close season.
Yeah, definitely. We jump back into this other fight, though, for Check, Hollow, and Freeze, our team that had the high ground, the team that was looking like they were about to win this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, things just go downhill afterwards as other teams start to enter into their kind of groove in the final moments. But Edge and Easy. Easy's going to go down. It's up to Edge right now. He barely has anything to work with. Honestly, the worst kind of situation there. Just a pistol, heavy AR, and they get wiped up.
That's going to be their tournament, like you said earlier, right? This is the final game, so there's 0 opportunities left. There is 1, and I mean 1 slot left in the finals. And as you mentioned, Every single team that is eliminated so far is another team who is not in that slot. So for Ved, Tabney, and Pump, who we're looking at right now, this is the make or break moment for them. They are Weeping Woods. They are uncontested. They are comfortable here, contested or not. But right now, they are still in their element. And Zone's going to pull a little bit to the center in terms of the map for them, which again, nothing bad for them at all. I want to see it happen purely based on the incredible consistency and how close they have been through the entire tournament so far. Like, it is devastating to see a fourth in a qualifier be one elimination off. It was one single elimination, which was a downed finish they had. I remember specifically, they'd got a knock and they didn't manage to get the finish on that, and that finish would have put them into qualifiers. Now to come here into the reboot round, to come 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then this is the last opportunity. You've got to imagine these guys are sweating buckets.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for one more ridiculous pop-off from this team right here. They're just incredible consistency they've had today. Can they be rewarded for it? That is the question the community is asking right now. That is the question we're asking here at the desk. Can they just do it one more time and make another end game? I mean, we already know how difficult that is to do, right? Like round after round. So when it all matters here, when the last game's on the line and everyone's feeling that same exact way, you know, it is just going to come down to who's got the ice cold, you know, blood in the veins at this point.
It will indeed. And look, if you notice, 29 teams remaining, right? Remember, we've seen 3 teams be knocked out so far because, I say knocked out, taken out, because they've won. So they're not playing the further games that go on. And only 1 team has been eliminated off spawn so far. So a single team has actually lost in this individual game. Tough to be them. Definitely tough to be them so far. But that may be too if we see Skills, Crispy, and Ale starting to rock on up and sneak on up, potentially looking for easy Stormchurch tags.
Here it is. It's all or nothing right now for Skills, Crispy, and Ale. They're trying to find these tags because, guys, they need them. You still have to be active. You still have to, you know, take these engagements, take these risks. Otherwise, you will fall behind as far as the Surge goes. And this is going to be another game that Surge is going to become an issue. It's Chucky and his team here having the day today. And Crispy, Ale, and Skills, we've seen them a lot more in some of these end games making their appearances. They had opportunities of height as well.
Had opportunities to do it, but this is what matters, though. This is what matters. One opportunity is everything, but actually picking up the Victory Royale is still all that matters.
Definitely got to just be better.
Yep.
Crispy.
At the end of the day, yeah.
He's working his high ground here. For a new angle, he's going to find the opponent underneath, and ooh, already pre-built structure there. Nothing he can break into just yet, but that's it. That's one less exit for the trio in here.
Great angles as well. All the teams taking different shots as Crispy manages to get a big shot, but he is traded back in return, and they may aggress this, but no, the opposing team is going to play it slow as we see Skills overextend and get picked up and fully finished at the same time too. So now it's a 3v2 with Ale and Crispy on the outside, still on that aggression. They have to decide what they're going to do now. Are they going to try and collapse in and go for that, or are they going to try and disengage? And at that moment, they may be able to get chased and picked up, but it seems like they're going for the battle, the build battle, and Crispy is already up on high ground, but now Ale is getting pressured onto his walls as well, and he's just trying to get out and do what he can as McCor has claimed the high ground.
Oh, he tries to inflate a bull on out. He gets a little bit of distance from him and the opponents, but he's forced into the building now. And that is a sign of weakness here, as he's already showed his hand. He tried to make an escape here, and the hunt begins. Ale's inside the building. Remember, some of these walls are indestructible if you end up in the wrong position, and these others just have a lot of HP, so it's going to be no easy exit by any means right now. In the material count, look at this. They're out of heavy mats. It's going to be very crucial now to start farming up here. They're running out of options.
They got basically none left. As Crispy and Ale try to get in, they're just going to hit their shots harder as that lower wall is weak, and Crispy's looking to take an angle, but he's chunked down to 30 HP as well, basically leaving Ale to do what he can as a solo, as he is also picked out now. So Crispy is left alive, one person against an entire trio. The jump shot comes out and he starts to engage the shots, hits another 20, but no, it's not going to be enough for him. The clutch potential was there, but McCor's trio is going to take that. They're going to be able to heal off just fine and get moving and stay within this game.
I did not expect them to win that one, but it is what it is. On to AV, Mikey, and Zuni's now. Zuni takes a lot of unnecessary damage there as the building was set ablaze. Chimp, Fop, and Buzz on the other side here. AV gets punished again, too, for trying to go for high ground, and Mikey doesn't have much health either. Another team's going to enter in from behind, and it's not looking good for anyone here that's caught in this deadly blend at the moment. Zunis jumps into the vehicle. He's trying to get to his boy on the other side. Yeah, they're realizing, dude, I think we made a mistake here. It's time to get on out.
Yeah, we keep seeing them in engagements as well. We keep seeing them in engagements repeatedly over and over and over again. And this could be the downfall because they keep being really scuffed when it comes to that mid-game positions, right? Like it keeps having them with low materials because they keep getting into these fights, be it contested or just they're just rotating into the wrong paths and taking the wrong storm surge strategies. But with 2 controller players on your team, honestly, those long-term storm surge, like those long-distance storm surge tags, are really bad. So getting in close potentially is the strategy that they're trying to use, but it's just taking them too long and it's not necessarily working out too well.
Yeah, it's not. But they heal up, and it looks like they want to go ahead and re-engage here. And I mean, it makes sense. The power shotgun in Zuni's hands as to why they feel confident. Nearly face checks the sniper right there as Chimp whiffs the shot. But it's enough for Zunis to say, okay, count my blessings here. I'm going to back on up now. Let's get to farming. You got this one, Mikey. No HP, no shield, I should say here, which means that this team's got to go in and get the split going. Quick peek comes in. That's a pulse rifle on the other side of the wall there. Big punishment. Big damage, gets carried down range with those. You hate to get tagged with those at long range. They pull the zone though, so they will have enough time to go ahead and start farming here. Try to look to max out their material. Couple houses to pick from as well. This one, of course, is going to get them a little bit of brick, a little bit of metal.
Yeah, and Pleasant Park is notoriously difficult to get metal from and re-harvest that out. And because they're already kind of low on it, they are in a tough spot, right? They are in a little bit of a tough spot. And what do they do from here on out? You got to understand the zones at this point. It's the second zone that's pulling north when that first zone was relatively centered a little bit to the north, which means all of the players right now are going to be congested on that south side, basically. So from them being in this position, far west, yeah, they've got Fob's team above them, but do I see that many more teams rotating in past them? Probably not. The worry I have for now is that they are hard edge, right? You can see on the mini-map, you can see those purple markers to the north of them. Teams are setting up a little bit deeper into the storm, so if they get a far rotate for their next zone, that means they're going to have to start walking through a ton of other players that are there, right? They're going to go through that congestion of the players in those later zones, which may give them that difficult rotate. Given they've already wasted a ton of their materials and not in that best spot, it's already going to be hard. But no, they have a different idea, just getting straight into the box and going for the engagement. And that's going to be a single one picked up for Zunis.
Yeah, and Buzz actually set that one up. Buzz walked down with the gas canister. He tries to set up the ambush. He tries to set up the play, but they were ready. They open the box. They catch him there, and it all ends up backfiring. And just like that, they find themselves a single elim. And it gives out a fair amount of loot, too. There's some big mats to be picked up from that to go in and cap them off. Look, Chimp and company don't even look to jump down. They don't even want to get involved. And it seems like they actually held on to the body. Might get another shakedown here from the down. They have a vehicle there to pick from as well with the upgraded tire. So it seems like things are going to start coming full circle here now.
Yeah, I think so. For Zunis, AV, and Mikey, you know what I would say about getting those fights, getting those engagements is really tough. If you don't finish them quickly, then you end up scuffed with those bad loot. But for them, now they have the Storm Surge after those 2 eliminations. They have tons of materials. They have tons of loot as well. They're looking really set up for this final game. Now they just need to capitalize on the positioning that they've managed to get from those fights, which has been a struggle of a lot of teams so far.
There's that surge warning that we knew was going to happen. There was a reason why, you know, these teams are looking to take these early game fights round after round. Jumper third and rise, back on that same metal bridge. This is their rotate. This is the way they played the zone out. They've done it before and made an end game from here. In that game number 1, try to do it again now.
And do what they can. Like you said, this was exactly the same situation that they were set themselves up on. So we'll see if it works out for them, but on a different bridge, right? These guys are the bridge masters. There are no trolls underneath. They're going to be sitting right on top on the kind of power spots, right? So they've claimed it out. They must have gotten here really early to be able to claim such a good spot. And remember, from really far rotate, being on that west side of the map, this is a deep rotate for them into Storm. So hopefully, while on that rotate, they've got enough tags, which as you can see, 273 above, they are chilling right now. You got the peppers, the inventory, and I'm wondering what Rise sees. Ooh, Rise is making a tough play right now, making a very long rotate, committing the metal because they know they can reharvest on the bridge purely to go for that. But I am wondering if this is the play you want to be making in that final game. We know Rise is confident. We saw him take those engagements earlier in game number 1, and from now on out, to grab that launch pad, that's huge. That makes me think that they really did not have that much good mobility. That might be now 2 launch pads to their name, which is 1 to get them through a tough earlier zone like the 5th zone, 1 for first moving to take height and potentially win the game out.
And you are just watching the peppers in full effect right now, the strength of having them. But no, Rise is going to make a couple of mistakes there, jumping up on the ramp. Remember, this is indestructible as well. He still has to sweep his way on out and over to get to his team. It's going to cost him a little bit more. He's going to get inside. Luckily, he catches a little break there as he manages to get inside the build and secure the launch pad. Big risk there. Tons of resources invested. And I mean, yes, we know he's going to have some to bounce back from. I don't know if the bridge is going to yield out everything, though. We'll see if they calculated that accordingly. On the other side, though, Jonathan, Gandhi, and Six, they have the high ground. Young Jonathan has made it this far. It's not looking good, though, for the white HP, as Stick and Gandhi are very lit up at the current moment.
Yeah, and this should be a good zone for them too, giving us a north zone. They're the Craggy Cliffs team. I think they were uncontested this game. You know, we saw them in the later half end up being uncontested. So this game, we'll see if it was roughly the same. But they are in a really good spot. This is a very common position to be for those teams that come from that Craggy Cliffs drop spot. But they're starting to get fired upon, potentially some fireflies coming out. And, you know, that's one of the difficulties of sitting in wood up on high ground. But no worries for them. Just going to burn a little bit of their base. But they've got so much to work with right now because they created so much space.
Definitely a lot of room to work with here. The only, or one of the few positions here of the zone that have a bit of high ground terrain attached to it. Now, if the zone pulls this way, this is going to be a very interesting position to have. It's going to be the most key position to be on because they don't really have that much material count either, right? Look, 30 builds in Jonathan's inventory at the moment. Eyeballing these teams on the outskirts right now. If they can find any kind of finishes now, I mean, that's just all sweetening up the situation they're in right now. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the zone, I think, as far as their situation in this game goes.
Yeah, if they have to make a far rotate, if they can pull a max distance zone with those kind of builds, that's not looking good. They're going to need to get a refresh at some point there, which, I mean, they're going to need to get a refresh anyway. Unlike Macwood, Tragic, and Illust, who have their refreshes, they have those three eliminations, and you can see right there the extra materials already in their base. So they're tunneling those extra materials deeper into the storm to give themselves a better chance to get the future zones for that as well. So it seems like they got those eliminations way further back, and then that's it. They've tunneled all the way in, reused them, put them up here in such a good spot. This is almost like an ideal situation for you, right? You get those eliminations early on, you use tons of materials that you're never really going to need anyway because you're just going to leave them behind. Put yourselves in a good position like they are now. I would be really surprised if Macwood, Tragic, and Illust doesn't go deep into this game and get a top 5 at least.
Yeah, not only that, you notice they just got an airdrop as well. It's going to be a launch pad just added if they didn't already have one. So things are really starting to connect here for Macwood, Illust, and Tragics. That full team wipe, you're just watching the benefits of getting the refresher this early in the game and then pulling zone on top of it right there. Macwood does drop one of the launch pads that he has. He's going to go in and split it with his teammates, and these guys are well equipped now for this end game to come here. Where is zone number 4 going to pull to? That's going to be the real question at this moment right now. We have to start asking ourselves. They end up getting it, and they have the little bit of high ground. They have the extra metal as well. Look at this. They're going to pick the back side here to potentially build up on. No, wait. They're going to go forward. So I'm interested to see. They're the only team that actually has a little bit of extra high ground that they can play for half and half out early if they wanted to with the excess mats, but instead they're just going to say, nope. We're going to save all the mats we can to go the distance. And this is proving that they really want to put a priority on key positioning to make it to the final moments.
And for 4th zone, like the best position there is to be a little bit deeper into the circs, closer to center, right? So that if you pull a max zone, you have a little bit less distance to rotate. If you go full center, you're going to focus by everyone, but being right at the edge is a really bad spot. That gives you the statistically worst chance of pulling zones and the worst chance of rotating to them. So the fact that they've moved that little bit deeper in is really good. If they then pull that 5th zone, I'd like to see them go back through their tarp and go more to the center of the zone after that, where they're going to be in a much better position to be in, right? So fingers crossed for that. We're going to see how that pulls out when we see the 5th zone. But for right now, Rise, Jamper, and Threats, planning to rotate. They have the car with the big mod wheels on it as well. This isn't a far rotate for them, but there's still a lot of damage can be done to them in this time, so they have to pick their position very carefully.
Oh, look at this. They want the brick there. Thought about basing up on it, but the math was wrong. Now Rise has to invest a little bit more. You saw that, right? For a second, he thought about it, like, oh, look, right here, boom. And then it was like, no, that's not it. I have to go a little bit deeper. And this is a big reason why pros mark the maps usually and get right to the exact pinpoint location. It's all good. It's going to work out either way. They're in the game here. They're very much in the game. Look at the material count here. Oh, no. Furious ends up getting a knock onto Jonathan.
Oh,
Jonathan's
no.
down. That's rough. Look at the focus here. Look at the focus. This might be a full team wipe.
Might be as well as Zuki's team, who think potentially maybe got one of those eliminations, is the one who's getting pressure in the back. Spade's team alongside Dusky is also getting pressure. Now Rise, Jamper, and Threats are getting involved too, just playing the angles. But no, they don't want a piece of this. They know that they're playing the late game. They're playing to win this. But at the same time, if they can get an elimination out of this, if they can get the refresh, even more materials, potentially more heals, potentially more launch pads too, they're going to go for it. And we've seen them do that, even all the way back to game 1 where they saw Tragic's Illist's team as well. So for them, good play, but now after all this movement, they're getting shot right in the back by Ved's team as well.
Yeah, you know, they had a chance there for a second, a fighter's chance to actually jump in on that trio. They just couldn't quite track them. Couldn't quite track them. And look at this. They pulled a half and half out, guys. So this is it. It's coming their way once again. This is about the second, maybe third game now. They've actually had half in, half out, and or have been very, very close to it. True chance now. Leo, Death, and Spike. This time they have high ground for free. It is theirs. They don't have to build up to it. They don't have to struggle another team, not just yet, to go ahead and snatch it up from them. They get the first chance to play defensively with the high ground. We know what can happen with teams that have it. You're going to get landed on. You just have to be the most prepared.
And with the amount of materials that they've boxed up in, right? What was that, 3 high, all metal? Like, I know these guys got good materials. And if not, you know what? They're just committing to it.
And look,
either way.
Look at how clear the middle of the field is. So there is,
Oh, yeah.
there is not a single team between them. There's nothing to worry about as far as low ground teams. Everyone's going to be in the funnel that is landing beneath them and trying to base up. So that is honestly the perfect thing you could ask for with a high ground hold like that, is to be able to canvas the entire land, have all the information at your disposal. There's no secrets being played here.
I am a little bit worried about another team building up height. That's usually what's going to happen in the 5th zone. You're going to see one team bit one tower, one team at the other, very similar to what we've seen in basically every game so far, and they fight for it. So if that's happening on high ground now, will it even matter realistically? Because we've seen those teams lose height every single game, because team after team goes for it. First moving, second moving, and third moving at the same time. So repeatedly it changes over. So this is not a finished match by any means.
No, definitely not. But Illustrates and Mac would get it. They still have that heavy material count that they had in the past. And look, it's going to pull right back. And remember, that's going to go over this open field of land. There's not a single build on the way to the new zone. So it's going to be all fresh builds here on their forwards. Let's see how it's going to end up playing out on high ground. Spike, Death, and Leo still have it. No other team contested them for it. No other team looked up. Looks like it's barely held up, though. I'm not sure if they've noticed, but the teams already began to focus, right? Fracture out those builds. Another ramp gets broken there. Another team.
They're going to
People are being very sneaky.
They are definitely going to need to connect where Spike is. And here comes the launch pads out. It's Felix's time. They're trying to get ahead. It seems like they've claimed that high ground there. They cannot get height from this position. However, the teams who are padding getting landed way, way, way ahead of the ones who are going to look to be able to do it. Will anyone challenge Leo's team? It doesn't seem like it right now. They all managed to land safely as a full trail in front of the zone. Same with Jamper, Threats, and Rise doing the complete opposite thing. They're taking a full low ground position. Their height takes may come a little bit later on.
They did it before. They did it in the last game, and they had an excellent rotate from being in the front side. But they're playing the Scented Edgy Commandment style. They are dead on the low side, right? They are dead low right now. It's the best way to do it if you want to avoid conflict, but also have the positioning to use that firepower to push other teams out. For Illis, Macklin, and Tragic Cell, they are in the mix. They are dangerously close to the high ground teams. Pose is up on height. He's fighting for it. He's going to find Spike there with a huge tag. But hold up, Spike manages to bounce back. It seems like a siphon might have come through as soon as the crack came through. And Leo and Def are still alive somehow. And it pulls back his way. So they are able to recycle some of these builds as Surge is now active. Another team's going to land on up. It's a 2v1. It's Mikey and AV. Zuni's on the other side here, and now it's their high ground. What just happened? They managed to take that so quickly.
That was a perfect pad to get up onto the high ground position to make sure they have height. We watched them all game, and they're in such a good spot. But down, Jamper in the bottom left, tagged by Surge, 197 above. 6 players need to be eliminated. They probably won't be able to heal this out. They need to get tags back. They have also lost Rise in the process as well. So Alive as a duo below the Storm Surge. 2 more players need to go out, and it's going to be those potentially if they do not put the pressure. But yes, a headshot comes through, and it puts them 3 above.
Just barely holding on now, but the Storm is going to start to slow down here. The Surge is not going to damage them anymore. Another team has extra pressure. Spike gets caught out there. Zunis finds the refresher. That is massive. And on second height, they are now the focus point for the high ground team. Jumper tries to launch pad this one. What are they thinking? They want to go down? No, he's floating up. He's going to get tagged a few times. That is so risky, only to then build up to be back on second height. Again, that is going to be the focus for the high ground teams. They have to be very, very cautious in this moment here, but they're still looking up. Another team goes up for high ground. It's Dusky and Spade. Shifu, they make it all the way through, and it's a build battle for height once again here. This could give Jamper Threats an opportunity to continue to stay alive here, but Spade, the veteran, he's got this on lock here, and it seems like they're starting to run out of mats, though. They will have to come down here.
I've just seen in the Elim feed, Tabney is still in as well. Threats has picked up another elimination too, so they are both popping off at this point. But Shifu's been picked up, and so has Dusky as well. And that is going to be Mikey and Zunis who are claiming that as well. So Spade still up there alive, but Jamper now as a soloist. Threats has been taken out. This could be the end of their run for FNCS for this season. 60 HP and a dream, 20 materials, but no, Jamper's picked up.
And there it is. He's down and out, but Macwood is still up. If you're rooting for him, I see another name in there. Smacked and Casker still in this game too. But Zunis manages to find another Elim right there. And all of a sudden, they're at 8 and high ground. Mikey's super hurt. But Curix with the dead zone play here. He's going to sneak up, and it's a surprise attack. He finds a huge tag there. But Zunis puts him down. He shuts him down. And Zunis is on fire here. Now at 200 HP. He is a tank, a walking tank here. No, actually, he's just got a single tick on him. He is by himself. He can play for the make play here. But if he does that, Macwood and crew will walk away with this. They're the only team that might be fully alive right now. This is their game to win. Will we have a fairy tale finish here? Halo, Freeze still up. Niddle's still up in the zone. This heal comes through. We talked about it. Wasn't going to be good enough. 107 on the tag there. Niddle heal in the feed. Mac was going to go for it too. I think Mac was got it. I think it's enough. Illis is on the hunt, but it's going to be all right. The heal will come through for Macwood here in just a second. Did he time it correctly? Yes, he did. Now they have to find Niddle. Niddle is eating inside the storm line. Macwood finds heals. He finds plenty. Niddle finds a ton of heals too. And they're both going for the heal off. It's a race against time here, Reese. There's the chug cannon. Niddle at the moment has the advantage. Is there enough? Holy, there are so many heals there. I think Niddle might just have it here. It's so hard to call. Is there enough in the feed? We'll see.
I hope there's enough. I really do.
Oh my gosh.
Niddle has half of the loot of the map
Macwood
on
has
his box,
more.
but Macwood still has more too. There's no way that Macwood will pick up the victory royale alongside Illis and Tragix in the final game when it seemed like Niddle had it all down to a T with what seemed like infinite white heals in the back of the storm. I cannot believe the finish that we've just had to game number 4.
It wouldn't be a finals without Macwood, Illis, and Chadix there anyways. So for them to punch their ticket, well played. Exceptional job there in the final game. Kept us all on our toes. The suspense was real. Oh man, Reese, that was awesome.
Look, that was such a good way to finish the day. We started off with the Cracker. We ended with the Cracker as well. Such good games. But look, from me, Resub, from Monster D-Face, it's been an absolute blast to cast on the day. Let's send it back to the desk to see what they've got to say about that final match.
Oh, this guy.
Oh, that was wild! Dude, first of all, that's the first true all-way heal-off we've ever seen. And as you can see, one of our trio mates here on the analyst desk is pretty excited because they got their prediction right the first time it's happened so far. How do you feel, Vivid? How do you feel?
Oh my god, what did we just watch. Like, how long was
know.
that? We're gonna need a time. I was like, man, like I was watching, I saw that Macwood had like corn, then Niddle had cabbages, and I was like, oh, he's got it, right? And I was like, man, he's really gonna lose this clutch to just some cabbages. And then we pan back to Macwood, and Macwood's got like 10 cabbages, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was a full on vegetable off. It just went crazy. But I think it was actually amazing to see a heel off that intensity as well, knowing what there was to play for. Just 2 players going for broke, hoping to make it all the way through. And I even said we were chatting obviously behind the scenes here while this is all kicking off, and I was saying Macwood, Tragic, and Illis, they changed POIs, not had the best kind of qualifying kind of route to get here and things, and suddenly it doesn't matter in the reboot round. They've gone and done it. 9 eliminations total. Top qualifying finish of 14th. Heat placement, again, 12th. Not even in the top 10 again. And a total FNCS finals, comparatively to our last trio. And this time round, 16, Vivid. 16. These guys deserve to be there. They've been there tons before, and they are back once again for finals, baby.
It's great to see a metric kind of show up on the screen, because we always talk about, Illest, Macwood, and Tragic. It's surprising to see these guys in the reboot round. And as you guys can see, the last 3 Victor Royales, we've kind of showed this spotlight for those trios, right? And I think the number's always been less or equal to like 4, right? And then we get this trio coming through, and 16 FNCS finals. That kind of just puts it into perspective how good these guys actually are, and the veterans of the scene, and how they deserve to go through. Really happy for the boys. Congratulations, Illis, Macwood, and Tragics.
Yeah, I think we've got to take a look at some of the highlights as well from today. And that kind of end game as well. The Victory Royale was just something else. Obviously, we love every single kind of like end game in a reboot round, but that just felt, we were so in the moment because there were only 2 players, both had exactly the same like mission, just to survive as long as possible. You can see that in the loadout, the cabbages, the corns, the chug cannons, anything to continue just putting it through. I mean, Nittle, Smacked, and Casca as well. Another trio that we've seen tons of. We all have predictions behind the scenes. They were, I think, my third. Right, if we got every single one right, they were like 3rd for me in my predictions. I thought they were definitely a team capable of doing it. But in that moment, Vivid, Macwood just had to step up, and he did it. Absolutely incredible.
Oh man, let's go. I cannot believe that he found the heals to actually out-heal Niddle. Niddle was sitting on like 3 chug cannons. Like, there's so much loot. Macwood finds a nice little pile of his own though. So exciting. Good finish there. That was a little recap. Game 1, we had Wrigley, K-Burbs, and Dictating win that game. Slickmon, Sharkman, Goku, Game 2, Berserk, Brutal, and Gleppo, Game 3. And of course, the boys Illis, Macwood, and Tragics in Game 4. So those 4 trios right there, we will be seeing in finals next weekend.
Yeah, they put on such a show for us, and I'm delighted for all of them. GG's everyone that competed, because it's not easy. It's not, despite all these guys being pros and at the top of their game, it's not easy to come out and try and get a victory royale with the caliber of the lobby that is at hand. But they've done it. These 4 teams join the rest, and we now officially, fellas, we have our trios for FNCS finals. Yes.
That's right, Adam. All the way out in the East a week from today. Don't miss out on finals. I'm telling you, Fortnite fam, they're absolutely insane. If this is the first time you've ever seen Fortnite, you need to come back. If you thought this was hype, just wait for 2 days of competition. 6 games, both days. Some of the highest, most incredible Fortnite competitive action you'll ever see in your entire life. Make sure you're here next weekend. Same time, same great place. As always, please give these guys a follow. Give our casters, MDF and Reese, a follow. We love all these human beings. We love you guys all as well so much. Thanks for tuning in. Now, don't forget, we are going to go to NA West. There's going to be a pretty big break here, but we will be back 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. I don't know the rest of them, but you guys can figure it out from the 2 that I've given you. We love you guys so dearly. We'll see you guys next time. And until then, we'll see you guys on the Battle Bus.